Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March 2nd regular meeting of Council. The City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. Up first, we have the consent agenda, and I'd like to make an amendment to that agenda, Council, before we move forward. Looking on the agenda, that item 2B regarding a delegation from the District Development Corp and agenda item 4A, the corresponding report regarding the zoning and development bylaw amendment of 405 Island Highway East and 402 and 416 Pioneer Crescent be removed from the agenda because they are unable to attend at this time. So with that amendment made, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, moved by Councillor Fraz, second by Councillor Martin. Any discussions or omissions? Yes, yeah, absolutely. Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm just wondering, with that removal, are we also, is it recommended that the corresponding report from the Director of Planning also be removed at this time? It seems that they would.
I'm pretty sure I said that, but.
Oh, pardon me. I missed that bit. Thank you. Okay.
And regarding the corresponding report? Yes,
thank you.
That's what I said. Sorry.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's the echo chamber we got going on in here. Okay, any other comments or additions or omissions on the previous agenda or this agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Thank you. Everyone bye. Thanks for coming. Sorry for the short notice. Great. Okay, we'll carry on now that we got a couple spare seats. If anybody wants to move around, do so now. We have two delegations on the agenda today. The first on the agenda today is from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 46, request for the freedom of the city. A presentation by Rod Wilkins from the president of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch number 49 to request freedom of the city. Mr. Wilkins, please come up to the microphone. Thank you and welcome. Looking forward to this presentation.
Worship, Councillor, thank you for receiving me.
If you just push some microphone, any one of the red ones there, Ron. Yeah. Thank you.
As you know, that this is a Royal Canadian Legion's 100th anniversary for nationally. And the actual anniversary is July 17th. And because of our number, you see 49, as we were the 49th branch of the Royal Canadian Legion. And we were incorporated in November 17th of 1926. In our request or proposal there, we're going to start celebrating on the 19th of September, only because obviously Remembrance Day and the busy time during that and the poppy campaign and the possibility of inclement weather. Because if I see how this is going to turn out, it's going to be quite the show. In British Columbia, the freedom of the city is a prestigious honor and is bestowed about individuals, military units, or groups. And of course, the Government Act and the Charter, there one says groups and one says others. Well, we're both a group and another, and we're not a military unit. And of course, the significance obviously is our contribution to the community. And the military connection always of our veterans and what we do. You've got everything in front of you, so I don't want to go into too much of this, but it has been bestowed upon 6 different legions in the province. Kamloops in 86, and it was exercised again this June. And the difference between the freedom of the city and the exercise is once you're given the freedom of the city, then you can ask for an exercise, to do, it's the same thing really, but you start out with flags or without flags. At exercise, you carry your flags. In October, it was Port Moody, Courtney and Bonnyville in July of 2016, Armstrong in 2019, and of course, Maple Ridge in 2021. The idea from the Freedom of the City is you had to have a military unit, or as we are, wasn't allowed to march through a city until they had the mayor's permission. So you would come up and I'll explain that part of the ceremony about it, is we come in and we ask, and you weren't allowed to carry arms and you could not have your flags. Well, we don't have arms, but we sure do have a pipe band and we have our flags. So we're gonna start just like we do in Remembrance Day, down the back, come up the road, but we'll stay on the road. We won't come into the cemented area around the cenotaph. And they'll stay on the road and they'll just stand there. And then I come in here, or actually I come to that door after I'm challenged by, I haven't got Bruce's okie dokie on that one yet, or one of Travis's boys. And he's going to challenge me, and I'm going to take my pay stick and I'm going to bang on this door. And I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to ask for the freedom of the city. Well, once we do that, and you say yes, and we go outside, we'll have a proclamation. The mayor will read off the proclamation. We will unfurl our flags, and we'll get ready, and everybody will, we'll unfurl the flags. Then we're going to lay wreaths. We get 5 wreaths, king, country, province, city, and of course ours. And we'll have the dais set up on the side of Craig Street there. And while the mayor and me, after the proclamation, go out onto the dais, the mayor is the one that's going to receive the salute this time. Normally it's a military person, but because it's a city, the mayor is going to accept it. And you all, that army truck we had out there in the Remembrance Day, that's where you guys get. You get on it. And then the mayor and myself and some other dignitaries will go to this dais, do our thing, and do the salute. And then that truck will be the last part of the parade type of thing. And we'll hop in it, the mayor and myself, and then we'll go down Craig Street, Hearst, all the way, through the past the Rod and Gun there, the stop sign, and then we'll stop outside the Legion. We'll get off, and that's when we're envisioning unveiling the bench, the ones we have in the city here. And when we're finished, we'll disperse the parade. They'll go into the parking lot, and all us gang will go into the dining hall there and wait till the lounge gets filled up. And with that proclamation, which will be in in a frame, which we'll supply, and that'll all be done beforehand. And then we'll go in, and then we'll take that proclamation and we'll put it right beside our original charter that's on the wall right now. If you didn't know, we've been here 100 years, and that building is there. The part of the building is, it's 100 years old, but we added on that barn from the Cowichan. They barged up here and they added on to it, and then a little piece back. So there's a lot of history there, and we look forward to this because I think this is really going to be something. And if there's any indication, like we had with the Wounded Warriors on Friday, and then the last few years at the Remembrance Day, there's going to be quite a few people there. And I think with your blessings and we are granted the freedom of the city, it'd be something that I haven't told any other Legion in our zone, and I'm not doing it until you give me the old thumbs up. So I don't want them stealing our thunder, so I want to make it a really good show, because it only happens once in our lifetime, and that's us. So, I mean, rather than go over all this, you've already read it, it's in front of you. If you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks very much for your presentation, Ron, and may it be first to congratulate you on your 100th anniversary. Congratulations, well done, sir. You've got me enticed with your description of this amazing event. Actually looking forward to it. I'm checking the dates anyways, for council's, information. The UBCM is the week prior to that, and and those that are participating in the UBCM, I believe in Vancouver this year, will be back in time for this event. So it should be relatively free on our calendar. So looking forward to it. I'm going to let the floor open to questions or comments to Mr. Wilkins at this time. Go ahead, Councillor Gore.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for presenting. And also at this time, I want to thank you, the Legion, all the membership, for the amazing work that you do to support the serving members, our veterans, first responders through the Wounded Warrior run that you just hosted. So thank you again, heartfelt thanks from the community. Mike, the request is pretty straightforward, and I want to thank you for doing a lot of homework on this, working with the staff, with the dates, the cost. We're looking at $10,000. My question to you is, have you looked at opportunities to fundraise for this event so we don't have to amend our financial plan to accommodate this request?
We have been looking at other avenues, one, our own command in Vancouver, and trying to get a grant out of them. But if you can imagine what the celebration, the 100th anniversary celebration is going to be, it's going to be pricey, and we're not debating that. That's the way it is. We're going to have a formal dinners, and we have all our community, still coming around to our dinners and everything. And then more will be into that once this plan gets finalized. We're still building the plan. This is the first step. We've got some money. We just did it. It probably this year was a little rough year for us because, as you know, we shut down for 4 months. We had a big disaster there. And while we did it, we said we might as well improve the place, and that's what we did. Then this came up, and it only does because I did this in Kamloops. I said, geez, what a wonderful idea for Parksville. Not only for us. Hey, look at what's happened to support, because, we demonstrated on Friday the support we get. And if we can keep showing off, if I can use that word, the community spirit here is unbelievable. And that's what it is. But we are going to try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up? Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Like you just mentioned, the community spirit is huge in Parksville and Oceanside. So I would not be surprised that you'll be able to fundraise for this important event. I definitely support your request for the freedom of the city being conferred to the Legion. I just need to get some confirmation where the money is going to come from for the request. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions at this time for Mr. Wilkins? Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Pardon me. I'm not as organized as I usually am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for the presentation and the information. I was also at the gathering for the Wounded Warriors run the other day, and I just want to say what an amazing event that was, and what a show of support both from the Legion as well as the larger community for that event. I do have some questions, but I noted that you said you're still building the plan. because we have some information, obviously, from yourselves regarding the plan and the hope for the day and for the event. We also have some information from staff regarding anticipated costs and other things that are going on at the same time. So my first question is does this date have to be written in stone?
Only as far as we've started our planning and we've got certain days and we want to do something, one big thing every month from starting in July. And so we have dinners and all the rest of it, try to do some fundraising that way. We've had some donations given specifically for this adventure, but when we get up to the final strokes, we have this formal dinner, which it'll be a formal black tie dinner, which there are invitations coming out if you get the hint, so we have to pay for all that, but it's everything we're doing. And it's going to be, money. And so we're just trying the best we can. Now to say is the 19th cast in stone, I would like to say no, but I have to start somewhere, and we've got a committee that is trying, and we've had our meetings already, and our calendar has changed so many times now. We just picked this time as we, yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. I like no. I'll tell you that going through what the impact would be for our staff, because I'm always wanting to go for a win-win. This sounds like it could be a really cool event, and to celebrate 100 years is no mean feat. It's worth celebrating. But I am concerned that when I read that in order to have this event for the September 19th date, that the banners would have to be going up 3 weeks earlier than they normally would. Well, that is no small ask from what I've observed over the years. So I can't help but wonder if it was even, if there was communication with the city as to, is there a time that would be more convenient and less demanding of staff so that, in fact, those banners go up at the regular time that's already planned for, and not pulling staff away from other duties, as well as you have to get special vehicles in order to do these. It's a real cost, okay? It's a real cost of money and time, and also things that are pulled away from other activities. I think it's something that many of us are aware of, is that that the demands and the requirement for traffic management have significantly changed over the past several years. And I noticed when you've got the Freedom of the City, that the last one was in either Port Coquitlam, Port Moody, someplace there, Maple Ridge 2021. And that would have been before those times. Now, I would hope that the costs associated with the traffic management could be minimized or brought down. I think about the Wounded Warrior run recently. I mean, with the help of the RCMP, with the help of the fire department, are there ways to do this? So I just can't help but wonder if it's possible to do some more work so that quite frankly, these costs can be brought down, but also that the demands and disruption to city work could also be alleviated.
Hey, you brought up some good points there. One, the roving traffic management that the Wounded Warriors, and when I was standing out in the roadway, that's exactly what I was looking for. And I'd talk to Travis about that and ask him for that sort of thing, because a member of our Legion, and he is one of the motorcycle police officers that were there. He was one of them, and they just do the roving traffic management. And I mean, we're only talking about an hour. Now your banners, yes, we are looking into that, and we wouldn't be able to even got this vision even started hadn't been for the staff, because they helped us reroute our planned route, and then they gave us, Candace and the gang gave us the cost and everything else like that. So they've been a fantastic help. And but we have some work to do, but we have to start somewhere. So if you ask for what you can, and we try to do the best we can to do the honor itself. So,
Okay. Anybody else with a comment for Mr. Will? Sorry, Joel, did you have the hand up? Councillor Grants, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And actually, my question's more to staff. So but I don't see anywhere later in the agenda that there's a staff motion.
I have a motion that I'm prepared to,
Okay.
as long as the
I'll just wait
protocol
till then.
allows me at this time.
Thank you.
I'm prepared to do that, once all questions, to our delegation has been exhausted.
Okay,
And
sounds
so,
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I do have a question though from Rod anyways, while you're here. Have you had discussions with Staff Sergeant DeCoin at this time regarding this event?
if I had questions, With the staff?
With the RCMP, have you had discussions with the RCMP, Staff
No.
Sergeant DeCoin?
no,
Because obviously he's going to be a big player in making this happen, as you say, with
Yes.
the traffic is one thing, but I was just wondering if he had any comments or. does he-
not as yet. I haven't gone to talk to him. We were dealing with the other problem around our facility that we've been working on, and that seems to be improved. So we've had a bunch of things happening to get, clean our books up so we can do this. And this is the last on our hit list for the spring, so, we can just go and live normally after this. It's a lot of planning.
Right. Anybody else? So, okay. Well, at this time, thank you very much for your presentation, Rod. Thanks. Oh, Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I've been thinking and mulling this over in my mind, and I was with Councillor Beal mentioning, looking at the transportation and things that could be, and also the mayor mentioning, seeing the RCMP. Maybe this budget wouldn't be so high for transportation and traffic, the traffic part. And so that was what I was hoping that would happen, just to get costs down. That's okay. Thank you for all your preparation. And this is a big deal. I know it is. Yeah. Yes, you do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rod. You can remain at your seat there anyways. I'm going to propose a motion off the floor right now, if I may. Council, I would like to move a motion at this time that the city of Parksville provides a one-time grant in the amount of $10,000 to the Mount Arrowsmith Legion Branch 49 in support of the event to celebrate the Royal Canadian Legion 100th anniversary on September 19th with funding from contingency. That the city of Parksville approve the request to bestow freedom of the city with corresponding proclamation to be presented to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 49 Mount Arrowsmith on September 19th. If I can have a seconder on that, seconded by Councillor Wood. And for first discussion on it, I recognize that this is not ideal timing, of course, because we've already done our financial plan and so forth. It would have been greater if we had had that in preparation for this. The timing is, of course, is rather short as well, but as I see it, a lot of the preparation for this entire event is going to fall on the Legion to make it happen, and as far as the traffic management and so forth. So the ask here is regarding the $10,000. And do you have a copy of this in front of you? Okay, is about the staff time and equipment, the roads and managed parking for the parade, to install a bench and the facilities and the power and the security and the permits approved in meetings and so forth, the bench with plaque and the traffic management. So this is what this $10,000 consists of, to cover those costs, so the Legion knows that they can get on with the plans without having to worry about costs incurred. And I think it's fair to do this. I think it's a very worthwhile event, and I think it's worthy of recognition. As I say, and if the staff come back to us and say that they have to remove something else from our plan, they will get back to us regarding the workload. If it is undoable or they have to make room by taking something else off, then council will have to look at that when that comes through. But I think at this time it's sufficient that we give our commitment to the Legion at this point so they can get on with the plans, because you've got a lot to do in between now and September. And so I appreciate the workload you're putting on yourselves as well. But if there's any other situations or anything else comes up, please contact our staff anyways to see if there's anything we can do to help you. But at this time, I would like to give you the go-ahead to move forward with your event. Any other comments on my motion? Go ahead, Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. So there are two motions on this, and I would like with your permission, to have them voted separately. The reason I want to do that is I would like the amount to be lower than the 10,000, because I think there's opportunity, as much as I appreciate whatever and everything the Legion does. I think there's opportunity for the community to get behind this, for the Legion to fundraise and everybody to be part of this, rather than us making a decision for the entire 10,000 at this time. Thank you.
To that, I appreciate that, Councillor Gore. To that comment, how about if we reword it to allow up to $10,000 as a grant from the city of Parksville, but knowing full well that the Legion will do whatever it can to limit its costs and so forth on it. And if the billing for the traffic and so forth comes in less than that, then they can come to us with a reduction in services. Would that be reasonable, Mr. Wills? Thank you. I think that because there's so much that has to go into this planning right now, I believe that they need the commitment, that they have the support of the city behind them at this point. That's my reasoning for this. Councillor Beale, go ahead. Councillor Wood, do you have a comment? Yes. No. No, you do not. Yes, you're next. Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't want to speak out of turn, you know. I appreciate that up to, that makes it a little bit easier for me to consider this, because I too, much as I absolutely want to celebrate this, I'm not comfortable with the amount of what money that's being set aside. I'll say that. I have a question for staff, through to staff, if I may, and that's regarding the $3,000 for the staff component. Is this actual money out, or is this equivalent in time?
CEO Kaler, if you could provide detail on the $3,000 commitment for city staff time, please.
Yes, thanks. Through to council, it could be a combination of both. We've discussed internally that we'll have to probably bring on a temporary resource. We do often bring a person on to help with some of the city delivered events. And there will probably be some overtime for, so that would be more of like an in-kind cost, but it is a direct additional cost. So we don't really know yet. As was mentioned, there's still some things to be worked out. But there will be a cost, certainly, and most likely we'll have to bring somebody in to assist with capacity.
Go ahead, Councillor Beale.
Thank you very much. And I am still wondering if in communication with staff, if there's an openness to adjusting the dates in such a way that it might fit better with staff demands, so that again, it just makes it more feasible for staff, but also brings down those extra costs. And finally, I really hope that, and I'm sure that you can and will work both with the RCMP and perhaps the fire department as well, first responders, in terms of bringing down the costs of traffic management significantly, because there's nothing like a fire truck parked across the road to say, guess what, you can't go through here. So, you know, we've seen what has been done, and people can put together a pretty good plan. Yeah, I am concerned about this cost, and to have, you know, a one-time event come out of contingency for this amount of money. However, I also do think that a 100-year anniversary is fantastic and we're celebrating. My thought was I'm all in for a bench and doing that. But so hopefully we can get the costs down significantly.
Thank you. And I recognize as well that the timing of this is not ideal because, of course, our staff are in full election mode at this particular time because we have our election, Amanda, October 19th, is it? 17th, even sooner. Great. So we're in full election mode at that time. So September is like not even a month prior to that. And so the amount. So I appreciate the CAO suggestion about bringing in an outside resource anyways to help us with the planning and just to assist with it. And so the least amount of time that we have to use that resource is going to be effective in getting our costs down because we have to pay for that too, because everyone else is all hands on deck for the election at that particular time. And not to mention council at that full time, we're in full election mode. At that time, we're doing our bid anyways. And so it's a very busy time. I understand why you're pulling it back from November 11th. I totally appreciate the significance of that as well. So that's, I understand. Councillor Frass, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Through the mayor, a couple of comments and a question there as well to staff. First, I just want to say, really look forward to this event. It sounds like an incredible thing to be happening in our community, and I hadn't seen anything like this before. So I appreciate the concerns that the council brought forward, especially around costs. We recognize lately we've been very cost conscientious and looking at our spending, knowing life's getting pretty expensive here and all around. That said, our contingency, we've spent a lot more than $10,000 on events for a singular group before in this term. So I'm not too worried about 10,000 out of contingency. This is what we have that contingency for. But perhaps things like the bench and the plaque could be one of those items like Councillor Gore mentioned, where it could be fundraised for and pulled out of these costs, because it's not one of the foundational things to make it function. And then plus it would give people opportunity to get behind it as on the community side. I also appreciate Councillor Beal's mention about looking at timing with staff to see if there's something that would work better to bring the cost down for them. I understand your constraints though around the date too, but I'd like to ask staff though what if they see any opportunity for or if these dates work for you guys best, or what are your thoughts around that?
CEO Kaler, go ahead.
Thank you, through you to council. Realistically, unless it's being pushed to 2027, to the new work plan and incorporated and planned for in advance, we're probably going to be in the same boat for the rest of this year. So this is not in the work plan and not in the budget, hence the contingency recommendation. So I just don't really see a way to avoid that unless it's planned for in advance of our 2027 discussions, and then our capacity is kind of mapped with that being in mind. So yeah, I don't think moving it, we wouldn't be able to accommodate it in October, I don't think, with our election activities. And I think December is worse. So
Fair enough. I think
yeah.
that answers that for me then too. It's not an obvious that there's a different day that works better. And I think hanging up the banners early, I mean, they still got to be hung up at some point either. So if it costs more 3 weeks sooner, it's just saving us from doing it later too. I support this as it is, but I wanted to put that out there, the idea of taking perhaps the bench and plaque off, to see how council thought about that. But either way, I'd get behind this. So that's my thoughts.
And thank you for that, Councillor Frass. And I think Rod anyways has heard some of the comments here and is suggesting of ways that maybe the cost could come down, and also the impact on staff time could come down, which just means more of your team actually doing a lot of the organizing, and then just expecting very little from our staff to coordinate anything else, like in working with the RCMP. That would be totally falling on you to do all that you can to make our staff input minimal, because you've heard anyways, because our work plan is set up right through to 27 already now, and it's going to impact the work that they're already doing. You can only do so much off the side of your desk for so long before that desk crumbles. So we don't like to do that to our staff anyways, because have a very enthusiastic and aggressive work plan that's been carried through this year. So they've been very busy up to this time, and they're trying to, of course, get as much as this done before the end of the year as well. So any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you to staff, I've got, or to council, I've got maybe a comment and then a question to staff. And first, I also add my thanks for the event and the great work the Legion does in our community. I do want to just remind us all that the staff has taken on a significant number of event planning kind of things in the last several years. And there's another new one that we haven't even mentioned yet. That is September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, that the city is looking to do a significant event this year for the first time, that we want to see be a success and that's very close to this date as well. So I guess I'll just underline the concerns around how we manage all that so that we can do all these great things in the city. So that said, the question through to staff is, I noticed that there is a bit of a formal bylaw or procedure that is asked for the freedom of the city. Is there some additional legal thing we should be doing from a motion, resolution, bylaw perspective that we should be adding to the motion to satisfy the requirements of the ceremonial bylaw requirements?
CEO Kaler, go ahead, please.
My understanding was it's not necessarily a bylaw, it's just a bylaw officer or like an officer that has to be involved. But if that's the case, that won't get done by the end of the year. Because our admin staff will be like the election, after the election, or before and during. We won't have time to do a new bylaw, but I don't think that's required. I don't know if that can be corrected. I think it's just the role of a bylaw officer. But most likely it'll be an RCMP officer, I think, in Surge. As great as our bylaw officers look, I think no one can beat an officer in Surge. So I think that would be the main goal, and not requiring a new bylaw from the city, as far as I know.
So maybe the delegation has some comment on this. I just noticed in the letter that says established the honor through a formal bylaw or council resolution. Council resolution is pretty simple. Bylaw, not so simple.
It's just the way the Local Government Act and the BC Charter it spells it out. When I say the bylaw officer, didn't mean Bruce specifically. I asked him already in the hallway there about a week ago. And I says, do you have a fancier outfit than that? Because he is your chief constable. In a sense, as a peace officer, he's it. And then we have our RCMP, which does the actual other side of the coin here in town. So
Follow up, Councillor Grants.
Yeah, I meant
as I see it, it's more
maybe
of a
the second-
proclamation. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we're good enough with the second clause on the motion here. Maybe that covers us.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Grants, and I agree that we're basically, I don't see any reference to forming a particular bylaw, but actually for creating a proclamation, of which I'm sure there will be a template provided by the Legion anyways for what that proclamation shall read to grant the freedom of the city. So, yeah, which is limiting to, as soon as you say bylaw at this table, it raises fears among all of our staff. They say, where are we going now? So go ahead, CEO Kaler.
Thank you, if I may, through the mayor. I think that's just the way basically there's two ways you can make decisions as a council, by bylaw or by resolution. So it's probably just a cut and paste requirement from legislation. But in our opinion and looking at what other cities have done, it's just been a council resolution. So I don't believe there's any additional bylaw requirement. And just for clarity, Bruce is not our chief bylaw officer, but he is a peace officer.
Councillor Grants, you good with that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Wilkins. Hearing about staff resources and staff time and the work plan that they have, Would the Legion be interested in hosting this event, let's say in the spring of 2027, to, again, gives you more time to fundraise? The motion could still be as is, commitment up to 10,000, but not having a fixed date as a September 19th. Would the Legion be willing to accommodate that?
I don't know if, without my 100th anniversary committee here and our meeting with our executive, to say in the 2027, I think that takes it away from our annual for the nation of this year. And of course, more importantly for us, the only reason we picked that date is, and quite frankly and honestly, never even thought about the election. About what is required, having been the bylaw officer up in the interior. So I know what I had to do up there. So I'd like to keep it in that time because then, it's a slot period for us. And to pick a Saturday is so everybody can come to it. We could do it during the week, but then that'll take a little bit away. So we're going to do anything we can to get this to happen.
So, through the mayor again.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yes, thank you. Just again, to make this the possibility of this event being successful and staff being able to fully accommodate as much as they can, your request. The city itself, like we celebrated the 75th anniversary a few years after. Yes, there was COVID, other things. However, we did celebrate that after the fact. I would like some flexibility if possible on the Legion. If it is possible in 27, I think my staff would be much happier to accommodate that request. And I think council will feel better that we're not imposing more work on our staff at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Sorry, I'm going to call that again. Please hold your hand up so I can see it, please. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on, council. Our next allegation is from the Waterfront Properties Corporation, zoning amendment application at 1465 Greg Road. A presentation by Ken Williams of Waterfront Properties Corporation regarding the zoning amendment application at 1465 Greg Road. Mr. Williams, come on down, and I believe you have a guest with you as well. If you will introduce yourselves when you get to the microphone, if you would, please. So Mr. Williams and Tim, I think it was it Tim? Yeah. So you have 10 minutes for your presentation. So if you can do your introductions and let's yeah. Side arrow. And microphone button as well, Ken. Yeah. You're good.
Great.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Ken Williams, and I'm the president of Waterfront Properties Corporation, the owner of the Grieg Road property here in Parksville. With me today is Tim Ennis from BC Parks Foundation. Today, I'd like to tell you the story of this property, where it's come from, how it's been used, and what we'd like to see it become for both today's Parksville community and for future generations. Our ownership group consists of 3 longtime British Columbians. We purchased the 140-acre Grieg Road property over 35 years ago, after it had been logged of merchantable timber and partly used for gravel extraction. Since that time, we've simply held the land. Although public access, other than a single trail connecting to Top Bridge Park, has never been formally authorized, until recently we allowed it to continue. During those years, it's quietly become a place that people in Parksville have grown to enjoy for walking, for hiking, and for being close to nature. In many ways, this has helped shape how we've approached this new proposal. Upon reflection, and after seeing that the previous development proposal didn't align with community expectations, we've gone back to the drawing board. What we're bringing forward is a balanced, smaller, and more thoughtful plan, one that protects nature, respects local values, and still allows for some carefully planned housing. Our proposal is simple. We plan to gift about 100 acres, or roughly 72% of the property, to the BC Parks Foundation for conservation and public use, and to retain about 40 acres for future housing. Even within that 40 acres, only 32 acres will be used for homes, leaving the rest as open space and natural area. The total open space not subject to development amounts to 77% of the property. Importantly, the nearest point of development will be 277 meters from the Englishman River. That's more than 9 times the provincial setback requirement. The forested areas and the most used trails are all within the land that we're donating, which means they'll be protected forever and remain open to the public. We have had discussions with BC Parks Foundation, a nonprofit organization that many of you may be aware to be the recipient of our land donation. The foundation works across British Columbia, acquiring and protecting important natural areas while ensuring they remain accessible to the public. They currently own and manage over 403,000 acres, including nearby sites like the French Creek Estuary and West Bolinas Island. Their approach is simple and community-minded. They own the land, and they protect it. Public access to the existing trail network would be formalized and continue. From the beginning, we made environmental protection a top priority. We engaged EDI Environmental Services to complete a full environmental assessment. Their input formed the basis for defining the development boundary so as to preserve existing trails, wetlands, and the most heavily forested areas of the property. As you can see on this slide, the vast majority of the mature trees on the property are in the 100-acre parkland section. The development area itself is to a large extent on previously disturbed land, areas that are the least sensitive and least used today. All significant wetland areas are within the area being donated as illustrated on this slide. 2 very small wetland areas within the development boundary will also be preserved or replaced under provincial guidelines. Beyond simple compliance, the engineering plan also creates opportunities to enhance and expand the wetland areas in the 8-acre non-development portion of the 40-acre development area, further supporting the site's natural water balance and biodiversity. Only a small portion of the development area, roughly 7 acres, falls within the floodplain. This area was previously logged, and today it supports mostly younger fir and cottonwood trees, with only 9 mature trees exceeding 50 centimeters in diameter identified in our tree survey. We chose this area intentionally because it is less environmentally sensitive than the heavily treed section in the northeast, which, while outside the floodplain, has been included in the 100-acre portion we're donating. Recent site-specific studies conducted in 2025 by Applin and Martin Consultants have produced a detailed mitigation plan that fully complies with the RDN flood hazard mitigation bylaw. The result is a plan that ensures that there is no net impact on neighboring properties and no change to the river's overall hydraulic conditions. So in essence, we're protecting the natural areas people care most about while directing future growth toward land that has already been impacted. Let's talk about the housing portion. Our plan focuses on multiplex style homes, typically 4 to 6 units per building, along with a few smaller apartment style buildings where siting is appropriate. At a density in keeping with the official community plan, there would be no more than 405 units built gradually over an extended period of time. Our intention is to help address what's often called the missing middle, the gap between single-family homes and larger apartment buildings. Parksville has many retirees and families who want to stay in or move here, but have limited options for middle ground housing, something affordable, comfortable, and community-oriented. Introduction of these types of housing options in a new area means existing neighborhoods will not be impacted or disrupted. While this site plan is not finalized, it is illustrative of the potential layout to accommodate this type of housing, providing building separation in an open, aesthetic, pleasing environment. This kind of housing appeals to the entire spectrum, from younger families buying their first home or to upsize as their families grow, to older residents looking to downsize. It's a way to keep people in and attract new people to Parksville. People who work here, raise families here, and want to retire here, all while maintaining a neighborhood feel. On the infrastructure side, everything the development needs is already close at hand. Water, sewer, and power are all available at or near the property boundaries. We'll upgrade Tuan Road to meet city standards, and we'll also improve the intersection at Tuan and Resort Way, where it meets Highway 19A to make it safer for everyone, both current users and future residents. A traffic impact report prepared by Bunton Associates projects vehicular traffic to the site of between 3 cars per minute during the peak AM hour and 4 cars per minute during the peak PM hour. We've updated much of the technical work that was done for the previous proposal, ensuring that the plan meets modern standards and fits responsibly within the city's infrastructure. Now, you may be wondering, why this proposal and why now? If this proposal is approved, Parksville gains a 100-acre Riverside Park protected forever. Public access is guaranteed, the trails remain open, and the community gains housing that fits within the city's needs, housing that's affordable and attainable for local families and retirees. If this plan isn't approved, the land currently has A1 zoning, which would allow the subdivision into 10-acre private lots. This would mean fencing, loss of public access, and potential tree clearing as close as 30 meters from the river. It would also mean losing the opportunity to create housing that meets real local demand. We've worked hard to design something that balances the needs of people, nature, and progress. This proposal isn't just about development, it's about stewardship. It's about ensuring the trails, forests, and natural areas that residents already enjoy remain open and cared for forever. It's about giving Parksville's next generation and today's working families a chance to live here in a community that values both growth and green space. In every way, we believe this plan represents a thoughtful compromise. It respects the environment, provides needed housing, and secures the permanent protection of one of Parksville's most beautiful areas. Together, we have the opportunity to create something special and lasting, a place where nature and neighborhood truly meet. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn about this proposal. We appreciate your interest, your feedback, and your care for Parksville's future. Thank you.
Well, that was 3 seconds to go. Yeah. Did you rehearse this? Good for you. Thank you so much for your presentation and your very precise timing. First up and foremost, I want to thank you for going back to the drawing board. thank you for coming up with a proposal of this nature. As I see it anyways, this is the largest contribution or proposed contribution of parkland within the city of Parksville urban containment boundary. Very excessive, impressive. Of late and of local area around here, Hamilton Marsh has just been purchased through the RDN anyways, which is another very important wetland to our ecosystem in our Oceanside area. That cost over $30 million is what had to happen there. Also, another very progressive council previously purchased the wetland site adjacent to Springwood Park, which has become a very valuable wetlands asset to the city of Parksville, which I'm thankful for. If we can add this onto our parkland and environmental protection of the Englishman River, it's going to bode well for our community for forever, and which is very important. So once again, if approved, I thank you so much for your generosity. I think this is an amazing community donation that you're doing, and choosing BC Parks as your manager on this gives me a lot of confidence that this area is only going to improve in its environmental impact on our community. So thank you for that. The only comment I have is actually to Tim, anyways, regarding the BC Parks obligations and so forth. Once you, BC Parks, if accepted, does your plan include like enhancement of it? What I'm trying to suggest is like various groups and so forth, we've worked hard at enhancing the habitat of the Englishman River, and to return it to, as our First Nations partners and friends have advised us in the pack, the Englishman River was a thriving source of fish, all types in between steelhead and salmon and all the rest of it. It would be BC Parks' intention to try and continue to improve the habitat to increase the fish stocks for all of our community. Is that part of your provision? Please explain kind of what your management looks like.
Thank you for the great question. And just a point of clarification is that I represent the BC Parks Foundation.
Right.
So it's easy to use shorthand and just say BC Parks. We are not the provincial government, and we
Right.
don't
Sorry,
run provincial
yes.
park system, but as a foundation, much like a hospital foundation, we do support BC Parks as their official charitable partner. But we also work with park agencies federally through the regional district level, and also in local communities as well. So we're not entirely tied to a mandate of working just in the provincial park network. So for clarification, and our mandate is definitely more oriented towards conservation, and we understand that this also has a really fantastic recreational component that we are also in support of. We definitely promote getting British Columbians out into nature as a part of health, as a part of developing and a culture of environmental stewardship. But we most certainly are focused on enhancing the natural world, be that salmon in a case like the Englishman, or any other value depending on where we are across the province. So yes, making sure that the land is well managed and stewarded is paramount to our meeting our charitable objectives for sure.
Okay, thanks for that, Tim. As a sports fisherman, I'm always looking for those salmon, right?
Well, yeah, and
So,
if I may, I mean, it's not lost on us how important the Englishman is. It's a very important river system on the east side of Vancouver Island, and there's a few, but it's up there. And this project is located in just the right place to bind a couple of other protected areas downstream to ones that are upstream, and to make a more contiguous protection corridor throughout what is an incredibly important river on eastern Vancouver Island. So it's just in the right place.
And right, and that it truly speaks to that corridor that we are creating, recognizing, of course, that Nature Trust already has a property out of Mariner Way and San Parel, that they're in the process of preserving and actually getting very quick, soon to open that important site, as well as Nature Trust also manage the estuary at the bottom of Shelley Road. And so to have this site of 100 acres further protecting the actual banks of the Englishman River is super critical to maintaining that corridor for the total ecological value of the area.
It's a generational opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm blown away. Thank you. I'm going to open the floor now to Councillor Martin. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, both of you, and Mr. Williams for your presentation. I know it's been an ordeal, but 35 years is a long time. And I'm very familiar with the Englishman, and I was concerned about anything close to the river, because I mean, it changes up to 15 feet. We've had some, close to flooding. Well, we had a little bit of flooding this year, and so it's fast moving. This changes so fast. So this looks much more understanding about the Englishman, and so I'm very pleased about that. Thank you for your efforts and presentation, both of you. Thank you.
Mary, you had your hand up? Oh, okay. Okay. Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate you coming before council with a revised plan. I just happen to have with me actually from 3 years ago, we got 3,000 people, as you know, signed the petition because the plan was not well received. And I do see some merit in the 100 acres being protected. I have a question about this commitment to the BC parks. There is skepticism in the community, as you know. After the last application, the community woke up to fences and trenches on the trail, and the trails had to be rerouted to the Top Ridge Park. How firm is this commitment with the BC parks? I personally think this rezoning application should be in tandem with a subdivision application where we rezone. The condition should be that 100 acres goes to the BC parks.
Yeah,
Is that?
That's a fair understanding. I'm not exactly sure how the legal process works, but the intention here is to, at the time of rezoning, there would be a subdivision of the property into two, and the remain, I think you call it the parent parcel, would then at the time of rezoning, immediately we would provide whatever undertakings are necessary, but then we would transfer title immediately thereafter to BC Parks Foundation.
Follow up, go ahead, Councillor Gore.
Thank you. My other question is about the density that you're proposing. There is some support in the community for the 100 acres that we see as being preserved. But at the same time, there is concern about that much density closer, like into the green space, which will likely be utilized by the future residents if this proposal goes through. So the impact on the river could be more than it is now, being left alone and some people having access to the trails. Are you willing to look at maybe a lower density is my first question. And the second question is, have you even thought of a different zone altogether? Like looking at just to the further east of the property is the industrial park, maybe a light industry that has environmentally less impact could go there. It also increases diversifies our tax base rather than just more residential buildings that we've seen everywhere in Parksville, from apartments to condos and even multiplexes and duplexes. Have you thought of that zone instead of residential high density?
Not to any great degree. We still think it's, the best use for it is for housing and for the type of housing that the community currently lacks. And particularly this multiplex style housing, which has, become very topical over the last 2 to 3 years. And, it typically will generate unit sizes from 600 square feet up to about 1,500 square feet. So, and it's ground orientated. You don't have to get into an elevator necessarily to access it. And I think, with this existing environment, I think, with the proximity to the, what's to become the park, I just think it's a natural for residential development. And that's the direction we'd like to see it go, because we think it really sort of fills a demand that currently doesn't exist. And I also sort of stated in my presentation that one of the nice things about it is it's not disruptive to existing neighborhoods. There's no, the traffic that gets generated is going to come straight out through to the highway. And, there's a lot of pushback in some of the bigger cities like Vancouver and that, where you go into existing neighborhoods and create this multiplex housing. So you've got a high 2 to 3 story building beside a bungalow. And that, that could happen all around, wherever you go. Whereas, this is an opportunity to create something that, is going to be coordinated and the streetscape will be, uniform and sort of planned on a singular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I see,
I'm going to move on to,
there's a follow-up on what he just said, if I may.
on the same question?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. Just when you talk about compatibility with the neighborhood, I just see the plan. It does include a couple of apartment buildings that are 6 stories that are proposed.
Not 6 story. They would probably be 3, 4 at the most. The focus is to try to get smaller buildings, for the multiplex style buildings. The 2 that we're showing on the site plan, the apartment style buildings, they were put there because that seemed like at this point, it seemed like a logical place to put them. And they're not intended to be large buildings. At maximum, there'd be 100 units out of the 405. The way that proposed layout works would be apartment style buildings. So the majority would be smaller multiplex. And as it gets progresses and goes into more detailed planning, the intent was to create as many multiplex as possible. So there could be less apartment units.
Yes, yeah, thank you. So going back to my first part of the question, are you open to a lower density than a 405 units?
No, we'd like to stay with what's allowed in the official community plan.
Thank you. Councillor Grenz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our delegation. Thank you very much for coming in person today and bringing your proposal forward. I really appreciate that. As you probably know, that this property has been a significant topic of conversation over the last several years in the community. It has a lot of significance for many people in many different ways. And coming back with a new proposal is very much appreciated. That appears to be much more sensitive and empathetic to those community concerns. At this table, we have to do our best to balance the needs and the different competing goals that there are for in the community, and including on the one hand the provincial and federal need for more housing, and the local need for making sure that we have all the servicing and infrastructure and all the things that make a community a healthy community. So it's a range of housing, but it's also the housing, all the things that come with housing, whether it's recreation and nature, opportunities for medical support, all the different things that come along with that. So these are the kind of concerns that we hear a lot about at the council table, and we want to make sure we're balancing those. So I guess all that's to say is I see an increased awareness in what you're bringing forward, and I very much appreciate that. And I hope that there's opportunity for some continued conversation on that as you bring this new proposal forward to the community. And so now to get to my questions, there are a few key partners or constituencies I think that we need to make sure that we're speaking to in the community. And one is Tzinawas. So the First Nation close by, we'll want to make sure that we're engaging with them. And my question specifically around that, is that something that would happen through the BC Parks Foundation as part of that process, or where along the line do you see that engagement consultation happening? I guess maybe that's how I'll wrap up that first question.
I can speak to our side. Yeah, thanks for that great question. Our foundation is certainly poised and actively working with Indigenous communities in which our protected areas occur. We typically reach out and initiate those conversations once we know we have a project to talk about. So in this instance, that's still a little bit of a question mark for us. It's looking increasingly positive, but when at the appropriate time, we absolutely would be wanting to be in touch with them and understand how they can interact with us on this land in a way that meets our mutual objectives.
Okay, thank you. So I have some, yeah. So that's very helpful. I guess maybe continuing the conversation with the BC Parks side of things. So yeah, consultation with Tzinawas and making sure that their values are incorporated along with the values of the community in Parksville. Once that process is completed, we could see potentially different visions for this property, whether it's purely preserving the habitat versus balancing the need for community access and riparian preservation, like all these different vision, goals, aspirations that different people in the community have. We want to make sure we're addressing those. And so I would imagine that would lie primarily with BC Parks Foundation for that. And so since that's probably the case, can you maybe talk a little bit about what plans and operational capacity you would have to do remediation, to put in, if required, actual trails, coordinating with the RDN on trails, coordinating with the Nature Trust, which is also working with the City of Parksville on trails. There's a lot of interjurisdictional and interdepartment and all these sorts of things that need to be done. And so I want to understand what your capacity is and able to run this operation, basically.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we're very familiar with RDN staff, RDN Parks specifically. We've got lots of, or some past projects, and as you can appreciate, possibly some future projects in conversation with them. So we're well connected with that group. And in terms of the ecosystem restoration, if we can just use that broad term, if there's any necessary, that happens to be my particular area of focus for the organization. We have a team of planners that, like any other conservation organization, would exercise the planning aspect of making sure we find those balance points between recreation, any First Nations sort of concerns or ideas or thoughts that we need to kind of integrate into the thinking around the planning process. And of course, our conservation team, supporting myself as well, are going to be looking at environmental values in our ways to make sure that we find that stool with three legs that balances perfectly. This is kind of the objective we look for in a case like this. And we realize that we're looking at a site that has been harvested previously. It's not a pristine old growth forest. It lends itself well in that respect to recreational access. And it can be very difficult to pull back recreational access that's been appreciated in the community for decades. And I don't think we would be looking at trying to do that. We understand that it's a cherished, valued resource in the community and has those connectivity pieces as a central part of our thinking. So we want to make sure that those stay preserved. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I mean, there's a big conversation for sure ahead, but I appreciate the high level on that. I have some kind of unrelated questions to that topic, so I can pass the mic over to someone else.
Sure, I'll bounce back to you, Councillor Grants. Councillor Fraz, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor, I just want to make a couple comments. It's appreciation with you being here today, especially coming back in this term, since it was an election issue at the last time too. Very passionate area for the community here. And so I recognize the efforts that you're putting into this and preserving the land and the trail access you mentioned with the recreation. That I hear the trust is a delicate balance right now from the community too, and wanting to ensure that things are going to happen the way that they hear the intent behind it, and that there's that follow through there. But I wanted to give you the credit for making the efforts to build that trust. I really look forward to seeing the public's feedback on this, because of course my vote here at the table is it's reserved for the public. But on a personal level, it's, I feel like a win-win situation happening out of this, where it's better than what the current zoning could allow for it. It's involving more of the community. It's hearing the concerns that was loudly brought forward with great concern. And I hope that the public can then embrace that and see that too. So it's encouraging. And again, just thanks for bringing this back in our term here. Particularly while we still have, the full council that was brought in on this item. So.
Thank you, Councillor Fraz. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to echo the thanks to both of you for coming here in person and being available. And occasionally that doesn't happen. So we really appreciate that. Also explaining a little bit more about how the relationship would work with the BC Foundation, the Parks Foundation, you know, turning it over. And I realize that a little bit later on, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions of staff to clarify exactly how that will happen, because I do think that is a sort of an almost unspoken concern out, you know, in the community, you know, the level of assurance that should this be approved, that the intent, you know, get approval, that in fact it for sure happens. And I know from my own experience on council that there have been times when something has been approved for a property and then in fact nothing happens, or now it's been rezoned and then it's sold and something completely different happens. So I'm not suggesting that that's the case here. You know, it sounds really upfront and reads quite well. And but I am a little bit curious as well about with the BC Parks Foundation. So should this go ahead and this in fact be transferred to BC Parks Foundation, then presumably following that, then it would actually go into BC Parks. Is that sort of the way that works? I'm just curious about that bit.
Yeah, thank you for the great question. We remain flexible in the models that we use post acquisition in many ways. The one thing that is always the case is that we retain title in perpetuity. So that's the key piece. So once that land transfers to us, we will remain the owner in title. We often look for management partnerships. We often look for partnerships with regional district park services, with city park services, provincial park services, and on occasion, national parks. So there's fewer of those. And so we'll explore those opportunities and see what comes out. And then there are instances where we own operate. So there's no, you know, concrete decisions being made in this moment about the management partnership opportunities that might be in front of us. And I would include in that First Nations as well. But the one thing that will certainly be the case is that we remain on title in perpetuity. And when we do work with other partners as management partners, it sometimes is through a lease arrangement. And we prefer that because we all know governments can change and you know, different designations can change. But having us as the stable ownership partner in perpetuity, it ensures that permanence of conservation will always be there as a paramount condition of the project.
Follow-up, go ahead, Councilor Beal.
I really appreciate that information, having donated to BC Parks Foundation on more than one occasion myself.
Thank you.
And so when and if something like that does happen, so is there automatically a covenant or something that's placed on the land, or simply that it's in perpetuity and that's noted somewhere? Again, just curious about that.
Well, because of our charitable purposes and as an organization, we're confined to using the land that we own in a particular and exclusive way for conservation, with maybe a low impact recreational opportunities as well. We can't do anything other than that, or we'd lose our charitable status. Also, I would add that if it fits and the property is donated through the Ecological Gifts Program of Environment Canada, which it very may well to generate tax receipt benefits, and this would be the case for any landowner, then that means that there can be no change in use outside of what you've predicted when that donation is made. And if you did try to change the use, you would have to get sign off by the director of Canadian Wildlife Service in Vancouver to give you permission to do it, even if that includes leasing it to BC Parks or something like that. That even itself would cause due to change in use that would have to get Environment Canada's permission and sign off before that could happen. So that in itself functions like a covenant. So when we explain that to other local governments and partners, they haven't seen fit to require a covenant because of our charitable purpose being what it is and because of the restrictions through the Ecological Gift Program. So we typically don't. But then from our side, if we were to lease it to another management partner, it would be a registered lease on title that would specify, much like a covenant does, what you can and can't do. So it would have the same effect, basically.
Go ahead. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And only because they haven't actually been mentioned in name, I know you'll be fully aware of the Mount Arrowsmith Biosphere region. And again, you know, as our mayor mentioned, including additional lands that will be protected will also be a benefit to Mabry, quite frankly, as well, in terms of their
reserve, yeah.
their percentage of land and increasing that, et cetera, that's protected. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. One of our main focal points for the BC Parks Foundation is to try and protect 30% of British Columbia by 2030, which is consistent with provincial mandates, federal mandates. And again, the idea is for that 30% not to all be in the Arctic. It's meant to be spread around, and so that it's representative ecosystems. And this is an important part. We're on the east side of coastal Vancouver Island. We're in the coastal Douglas Fir biogeoclimatic zone. Every single plant community and ecosystem type is red listed. There's species at risk all over the place. Like, this is an absolutely a hotspot place for biodiversity conservation to happen. So we're not immune to ignoring those facts. I myself am a Central Vancouver Island resident, born and raised on this island. Family's been here for 7 generations. I know my way around what happens in these communities, although I don't live in Parksville. My apologies. I'm pretty close by. So yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Wood, first time speaker, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. This proposal it hits much closer to kind of a win-win for everybody. And I think that the advocacy efforts on, the community for the previous proposal, I think they were working really well. I think the community had to get their heads around, fences and not being able to use the property, but it's private property. And that came up during that discussion too. Hey, these guys don't have to allow you, on their property. So that was something that the community kind of had to get their heads around. Last time it was going to be, maybe we would give it to BC Parks or another partner for $1 or something, but it was very up in the air and it wasn't as solid as what it's sounding like today. So really appreciate the work that you've done to listen to the community previously. Just so the public understands, if this goes through with this vote today, the next step is public engagement, and such as the hosting of a public open house. And so as much as mayor and council think we know what the public is thinking, that's kind of our job to try to think of what the public is thinking. Then if we say yes to this today, we're going to that next step to get some more official, formal public input. And then, of course, we'll all pay attention to what the community thinks about this proposal. And should it go forward today, we'll go from there. Really appreciate your this revised development. Thanks.
Councillor Grans, and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for you to our delegation. So I'd like to turn to the actual proposed project area now. I had some questions around the BC Parks Foundation aspect. So I guess first question is, how long do you anticipate it would take to go to complete build out of the project?
Just speculation. I would think it'll be up to 10 years or more. 40 units per year is probably a pretty, maybe even an optimistic takedown. And you're probably looking at 3 years before any shovels would hit the ground from today. So it is an extended period out for full build out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I recognize that there are a lot of economic headwinds and all that are right now for any kind of project. So now on the portion of the property that would be sectioned off for, so within the 40 acres that would remain as a development site, 7 of those acres are proposed to be, I guess, preserved in some way. I wonder if you could maybe speak a little bit more to your vision of those 7 acres and recognizing that would be the portion that would have, I believe, a covenant placed upon it, or?
Well, it won't, it could have a covenant placed on it. It probably, which wouldn't be a problem, but that's the area that we're going to use for moving fill to elevate that one section I mentioned, the 7-acre portion. From that 8-acre piece, we'd be taking some material and transferring it over. I think, if memory serves me, it's a 2 or 3 feet elevation lift that has to happen, and then that also provides, and that area is quite a low area now, but by doing that, it'll allow us to potentially increase the wetland and the biodiversity area on the site. So that would be within that 8-acre piece.
Okay, thank you. And so follow up, maybe if I may relate. In terms of the recreational component on the site, so the 40 acres, again, there's the 7 acres of that. Would you anticipate that those 7 acres would be used for, would those have trails, or how would this work between the BC Parks Foundation?
No, that area right now has no trails on it.
Yeah.
It's just younger growth trees on it. And the trails are within that 7 acre, or sorry, my numbers mixed up, and the 8 acre corridor that would be left, and those would be preserved.
Okay,
We still have some work to do, but those would, they'd still be under our ownership, and they would connect up with the existing trails that are on the property.
okay.
Yeah, and we'd have to figure out how, how that gets documented or whatever.
TBD
but-
on that. yeah,
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to get a more of a sense. So if I may just follow that line a little bit further, am I correct then in that the 40 acres, the idea behind that is that you would be targeting 405 units, and in order to stay within the OCP's 10 units per acre idea is that you would need those 40 acres to kind of get to that 405 units.
Yeah.
7 of those which would not be developed, but they are part of the entire property
right.
so that you get to the number that you're looking to get to for the 405
That's right.
units. Okay,
That's
that's why it's 105 to BC Parks Foundation and 40 remaining as
Correct.
part of the development.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And further speaking to that regarding the development itself, speaking to the fact that you're using plexus and townhouses and so forth, it kind of speaks to the provincial mandate that they want for the housing, better land utilization by having more families able to use, less land type of thing. And that actually is economical when it comes to water conservation as well. It just makes better sense of land utilization. So I like that idea as well, to the fact of that, but as well as addressing that very critical middle income households, because in Parksville right now, our average house on an SFD is over $1 million. So brand new build right now is 1.1 to 1.2. And these are going to come in considerably less than that. So it's going to open that floor up to those families and so forth. They're the ones that have multi-generational families living together all in one area. And that's where the plexes and the duplexes and the townhouses lend themselves to creating a more of a diverse community, which I like. Is not just all seniors housing, it's not just all affordable housing, it's a diverse community of families and so forth, which can take advantage of the recreation aspect. So I do appreciate the fact that you've gone back and come back to that missing middle. It truly is missing, because we have a lot of people that can't afford to live here as it is right now to a single family dwelling, but they're past the point of being in an apartment. They want to be somewhere in between. So that should be hitting that target. So thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have had, and this not just this project, but others, speak to me about how can we manage with all these people with the water. And this council ordered a water study, and we're fine. I want to let you know this because it comes up all the time with me anyway as a councillor. And we ordered a study on water management and how we can manage it for the future generations. And it has come, and we're getting our results, and we're following through with that. There's not a problem with water with 405 homes. Just thought I'd mention that to you.
Yeah,
Maybe it hasn't
I'm
come up.
aware.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. That was all. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. Thank you. Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So to our BC Parks Foundation gentlemen, sir, can you speak to the connectivity to the Rathskever Park through the acquisition of this property? I know this is an important wildlife corridor, and I really like the setback from the river, 9 times, as you mentioned, Mr. Williams. So is there a plan to connect in the future those 2 important green spaces?
Yeah, thank you. As we do within our organization, we're in close contact with staff at BC Parks. We meet quarterly, I guess, to talk about new acquisitions, and we bring some ideas forward. They bring some ideas forward. So this is a property, an area that we have had conversations about. I know they're very keen on exploring the connectivity between Rathskever and this piece. Should we be successful in doing that? But detailed planning hasn't taken place to that extent in terms of actually how, or specifically where. But the concept is one they very much support, very strongly supportive of, actually. Mm-hmm.
Any other further questions or comments to the delegation, your council? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for spending your time with us this afternoon. we'll go forth and deliberate, as you've heard from council, and it's coming up later on in the agenda anyways to consider going to the next step, and we'll look forward to proceeding with that. And thank you so much again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, we have next on the agenda under correspondence, we have 3 items of correspondence on the agenda from the Aerosmith Water Service Management Board, the AWS 2026 to 2030 amended financial plan. Do I move or second for the recommendations as noted? Councillor Wood moved, seconded by Councillor Grant. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. That passed unanimous. The next item of correspondence is regarding the Englishman River Water Service Management Board ERWS 2026 to 2030 amended financial plan. Got a mover or second for the recommendations? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? Councillor Gore, go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you. Through you to our AWS, ERWS board members. Perhaps you can answer this for me. And please don't direct me to the board meeting I could have watched. I'm sorry I did not. But if you can kind of refresh me to what that $200,000 capital cost increase is in this proposed amendment?
Well, you know, if I had a photographic memory, perhaps I could answer that, but CAO Kaler, can you assist with that? I know you.
Sorry, yeah, my
If you
question
rephrase
is.
the question, it was for the ERWS
Yes.
water service.
Yes, thank you. So item 3B, as in Bravo, the ERWS financial plan is being amended, and one point is about $200,000 increased capital costs that were not in the plan. What are those for? Thank you.
Thank you, Jetta, if you may address that or get back to us.
Thank you. Through you to council. All of it was not new projects. It was just work that wasn't completed in 2025 being carried forward into 2026 and being rebudgeted. So the funding that wasn't used in 2025 will carry forward to 2026. So there was very little that was actually new capital. It related to the containment project.
Good on that. Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Carries unanimous. Next item of correspondence is from the Access Oceanside Association regarding improvements to the bus stops. Do I move her and second her for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Beal, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? Go right ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would actually like to make an amendment to this,
To the, are we,
to the recommendation.
this is just the correspondence. We're just receiving the correspondence at this time?
Yes, I would like to
Oh.
ensure that the letter is forwarded to appropriate staff for information. So I would like to add that.
It's, yeah,
Oh.
it already has, yeah.
Okay, my understanding was that when something is received, that does not automatically happen. So I'd like to ensure that that is
Oh.
the case.
But yeah, by doing it this way, we're receiving it and then
Yeah.
it does often.
Councillor Beal asked me to forward it last week, so it's been forwarded and receipt has been confirmed.
Right. Done and confirmed. Good. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to check. Yeah, no, that's great. Councillor Fraz, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to make comment to council. I appreciate that they've gone through and done this work and laid it out so clearly for us. It's great to know that they're looking out for these types of things. I imagine staff is aware of a lot of them to begin with, perhaps even all of them. Bus stops and transit in the community, I think, is a very important aspect to it, and especially the accessibility here. I think slowly we have been improving and building out this network. It's nice to see it down to one page of things that they found as where we need to work, and it's not it's not a 10-page document of faults here. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very busy committee, believe me. Yeah, they're very active what they do and they're doing a great job, I gotta say. Not just because he's in the room. Hi, Ralph. But regardless, yeah, so Councillor B, go ahead.
Thank you. And follow up, I'd just like to say that I appreciate as well that even without this, our staff has indicated that they try to always look at things through an accessibility lens, but having this from people who are like boots on the ground or maybe wheels on the ground really, really helps. I know that I learned that, you know, if you've got that little bit of grass between the sidewalk and where it drops down, if you're in a very heavy powers chair, good luck, because the minute you get on that grass, that chair is going to sink. So I've certainly learned just from, you know, interaction with the group.
And Councillor Press, go ahead, follow up.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me again. It brings up something we had discussed before too, when we saw with developments and looking at them including some kind of amenity towards bus stops or shelters and things like that. And so, you know, just recognizing with the Greig Road just coming through here too, and they talked about improving that intersection area, you know, it's easy to overlook the transit stops around there too. So if we can keep that in mind, I think it's a very worthwhile ask, particularly how hard it is to get bus shelters and how rainy our climate can be. And, you know, something like that on the edge of town, I think let's keep that in mind when we see those developments come through for some kind of med contribution.
Absolutely. Councillor Dorr, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, I want to thank AOA and in particular Ralph for presenting this actually very wonderful report with, I like your attention to details with the pictures, stop numbers, the intersections, just so easy to read. And thank you so much for all the work.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? All those in favor? Thank you. Carries unanimous. Thank you. On to the second report. So under reports, the first report on the agenda that we have here today is for the Director of Community Planning and Building Zoning Amendment application at 1465 Greig Road to consider zoning and development bylaw amendment. Do I move a seconder for the recommendations as noted? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a question through to staff after hearing the delegation and the presentation. Is there a couple of things, actually? One is a question about what is needed in order to assure that you know, what conditions need to be put on, or however that is. I'd leave that to staff hands, but has that discussion or that planning already taken place? Probably has, but I wasn't sure about the process there and if there's anything that is needed from council in order for that to be assured.
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Beal. As is mentioned in the report, there's a number of items that need to be secured. Those would be expected to be secured before the application would be brought to council for final consideration of the bylaw. So from an administrative perspective, as well, though, we would be informing council specifically how that is going to be secured. And some of it may come down to timing for the applicant. So there is an application in for subdivision to split the property in two. And it will come down to timing when the property owner is able to fulfill the subdivision requirements. So one option would be that the subdivision is permissible under current zoning. And so if the lot is split in two, there may be the ownership transfers prior to the zoning bylaw being considered for final approval. That's one option. The other option, again, depending on the timing, is that a restrictive covenant, a no-build covenant can be placed until such time as that occurs. And that would all be clearly communicated to council before we would put you in a position of considering the bylaw for final adoption.
Go ahead. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And second question through to staff. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for that information. And I noted in the application also comments about the fire department and their needs. And is there any information on that, or what is it the same kind of timing that fits with whatever they are asking for and whether that can be provided?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Beal. So the ask of the fire department has some, I guess some aspects that may be hard to pin down. So depending on how that flows timeline wise, the applicant will have some different options available, which again would be communicated to council. So from what the applicant has indicated, as was communicated to council in the report, the property owner is trying to find out, well, what is this ask? Like, how much is the cost to this? To relocate their infrastructure. So if the fire department has an estimate of that, great. If we're, a number of months or years down the road and they don't, well, then the proponent may have other options that they could present to council and how they're proposing to address the fire department request. And that again would be communicated to council definitively before the bylaw would get final consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Through you to our staff. Mr. Russell, I want to hit the basics first on this. Could you tell me about the OCP designations on this property? I see there are two, the planned neighborhood as well as single unit residential. So overlapping OCP designations, why do they exist in the first place? Like, why do we have two designations? And related to that question is, why is this not an OCP amendment application to begin with? Because this is what it was 3 years ago. Similar application, there was a different CD zone, but it was to change, remove one of the OCP designations and keep it as planned neighborhood. So when I read this application, to me, it looks very similar. To remove the single unit residential, then it should trigger an OCP amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Russell, if you could.
If I may, through to Councillor Gore. So for your first question, the reason why, and it's not just this property, there's actually 3 sites, 3 kind of land holdings in the city that have this. One of them is Cedar Ridge, which was developed under its existing RS1 zoning. The other is the south side of Despard Avenue between Despard and the railway station. And then the third is this area. And the reason for the dual designation is there was sort of recognition that a sea of more single family homes, that there may be some opportunities to look at sort of cluster housing where more green space could be preserved as part of that. So the 2 designations allowed someone to either work under the framework of single unit the single unit residential policies as their default, or if they were addressing the policy guidelines of the planned neighborhood, then that was a second option that they could explore. As to your second question with respect to the OCP, there's nothing precluding, in my opinion, there's nothing precluding someone from applying to amend the zoning bylaw with both those designations. The single unit residential designation does not preclude consideration of the overlaying planned neighborhood designation. The single unit designation in its preamble talks about typical types of buildings such as single units and duplexes, et cetera. But in the actual policy section, which is the kind of legalistic aspect, there isn't a provision that actually specifies density, et cetera. We also have an overlapping planned neighborhood designation that has supportive language that support higher densities being considered. And so ultimately the decider of what the OCP says is ultimately council. Those policies are to guide council, and it's ultimately council that will render the decision whether or not a specific application is in compliant with the official community plan. With respect to the previous application, staff would always advise someone on the most conservative approach. That being said, in reviewing the single unit residential designation, there isn't anything that would preclude this consideration, given the fact that the planned neighborhood designation supports the clustering capabilities. And in fact, the density is actually lower overall than what would be a conventional single unit residential neighborhood. So if we were to look at, for example, a single family property, a RS1 property with just one house on it, it would have a density of 17.85 dwelling units per hectare. If we were to allow two houses, two principal buildings, that brings it up to 35.7 dwelling units per hectare. So in fact, we are actually building a lesser density, but conversely, we're also providing green space, and that's in support of that planned neighborhood cluster housing type policy.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Grenz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question through to staff since he's on a roll now. Could you please give a bit of a rundown of what the current zoning would allow on this property if it were to remain exactly as it is? And perhaps there's some additional consideration on that in light of the subsequent Bill 44 that has come in since the original application came through on this property a few years ago.
Certainly, if I may, just one moment, please. I have to change my thing here. So
yeah, by all means, drink a glass of water or something before you answer. Take a deep breath.
no water for me. I'm just trying to figure out how to unhide. Jetta, you're the spreadsheet expert. How do I unhide things on here? Unhide a spreadsheet.
Your rose.
Okay, sorry.
You can ask Clippy.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, don't worry about that. Sorry. So you've asked about the number of units. So I believe it's between, and again, it depends on a final survey of the property, but it's between about 9 and 11 parcels could potentially be developed under the current 4 hectare minimum. And that's allowing for about 25 to 30% of the property being utilized for roads, essentially. The other thing to be aware of, however, is the zone does allow for 2 dwelling units per parcel. So theoretically, it would be possible for someone to put 2 houses on a property and do a building strata, which would then allow essentially double the amount of lots. So then we're talking up to approximately 18 parcels. There aren't any shmoo implications because they don't kick in a zoning bylaw that has a zone that's over 4,050 square meters in area. And as this zone's minimum parcel size for land parcels is 4 hectares, it's nowhere, it's way bigger, 10 times bigger than what would have SHMA being applicable to it.
Thank you. I had another question, but I forgot what it was. I got schmo distracted. Yeah.
Yes, mud
Yeah.
distraction. Yes.
Schmo
We all
distracted.
suffered
Yeah.
from that for the last 2 years. Anybody else? Well, Councillor Grenz. Oh, Councillor Gore, go ahead.
Mr. Russell, hope you had a chance to take a breather. I want to ask about the CD zone that's being proposed. Just looking at the report, all I see is actually the density that can be put on. I have no idea what the uses could be on that CD zone, what setbacks, what the height limits are. Like, I have no idea, just looking at the report, what I'm approving. So can you help me with identifying what the CD zone can, all those, what will it all include? Or is it just the density that is being approved here?
If I may, Mayor, through to Councillor Gore. So at this time, a bylaw hasn't been prepared, nor is a draft bylaw be prepared. So at this point, the only thing that you're considering is the general aspects of the proposal where to allow the proponent to proceed to their open house. So a draft bylaw would a follow-up report would include a draft bylaw. And at that time, staff would be requesting that bylaw be considered for council to be advanced, like formalized, and then go to a subsequent meeting. What I can say is that the proponent has indicated that they're essentially looking for a zone based on the prior CD zone, but with limits. So there'd be limits on the number of dwelling units to 405 units. We've had discussion about limiting it to for those non-apartment units to 6 plexes. The actual setbacks, that's still to be developed. So that would come back to council prior to the bylaw, the statutory process commencing for the bylaw.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. If I may, thank you, council. Sure. for entertaining my questions from these little chit notes that I have. Mr. Russell, I remember when the sewer master plan was being presented, and one thing that was highlighted for this area was the pump station on Martindale needing an upgrade. And we were told the capacity, it's nearing the capacity, and that would need significant capital costs to accommodate the future growth. Perhaps this is for engineering, but do you have any idea if this future growth will be impacting that capacity of the lift station there? Thank you.
Yeah.
If I
Can
may,
you
Mayor.
comment on that, Mr. Russell?
If I may, Mayor, to Councillor Gore, that would be a specific question that the engineering department would be more apt to answer. However, that being said, they have provided a memorandum of their technical assessment of the application to date. And there isn't anything I'm aware of in that memorandum flagging that as a specific issue with respect to this development. And my understanding is that where they were aware of development proposals, that they incorporated those into the study. So for example, like the water master plan, they've incorporated the SHMA provisions throughout the city, even though that isn't happening to date. So, but that being said, that would certainly be something that we can get a follow-up answer to you for a future council date should the application reappear before council.
Yes.
I have a comment on this.
Yeah. Councillor Grens, did you get back to your question that evaded you a minute ago?
I think I'm good for questions for now for staff. Thank you.
Or comments? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
Thanks, Mayor. It's more of a comment. We'll give Blaine a little bit of a break. You know, we kind of talked about it during the grocery store unit size. The bylaw itself allowed for retail or grocery. There were a couple options there. And, you know, the decisions we make at this table, we like to really have an idea of what we're approving. The community wants to know what we're approving. And, you know, however this development plan goes forward, if it does, when we get to a bylaw, as accurate and kind of locked in as possible, I think, is what this council would like to see and what the community would like to see as well. And I don't know all the ins and outs, but I just wanted to just mention that. Thanks.
So, at this point, I'm looking forward to particularly the public meetings, you know, that will be held by the property owner. So I'm very interested in hearing the feedback from that anyways, once this is out in the public. Yeah. Go ahead. Anybody else before Councillor Gore? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gore.
Thank you.
You're on a roll.
No, just some questions and comments. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think this is more of a comment for us at this table as we make this important decision. I think I believe this is a very improved version of the proposal that we saw 3 years ago. Having said that, Parksville in the last 3 years has also seen a lot of housing being built. We always hear that from our constituents. There's a lot of development in Parksville. A little bit of history on this land specifically is, you know, being in the RDN, it was acquired, and a lot of this property, even assessed now, sits at $1.8 million for a reason. And this is a sensitive ecological valued land. A lot of it is undevelopable land. When it comes to rezoning it into the CD zone, I look at the compatibility with the neighborhood. I want to see how it fits into the larger vision of Parksville as we see it. A few unknowns to me at this point are the OCP as we are revising it. Does the community still envision this part of Parksville to be higher density? Yes, we are facing a housing crisis. We are also facing, you know, as we saw the water report, issue with climate change. Water security is big for our constituents. So, and yeah, not to mention the infrastructure upgrades that are needed in the near future and perhaps longer down the road if this higher density goes through at that part of the city. to me, there's conflict. There's a good proposal of over 100 acres of green space being protected, but at the same time, that density where I don't know if it really belongs there as being proposed does not really fit with the OCP vision of the surrounding properties. If you look at, they are not proposing a higher density residential. So to me, it sticks out. To me, it does not really blend in to the neighborhood. I am really thankful to Mr. Williams for coming forward with a revised plan. I'm really grateful for BC Parks being at the table. So these are some really good plus points. However, the concern remains for me for the ecological impact and also the infrastructure impact on the community, especially as the summer arrives and those water restrictions go back on. So for all those reasons, I'm going to vote no on this. I understand council perhaps in majority will send it for public input, but that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can comment to that, I guess, more aptly with a letter that was sent by Mr. Russell to a constituent that was just concerned about all the growth we have in Parksville. And Mr. Russell, if I was going to put you on the spot, but I thought I'd print it off so I can read it out myself, unless you'd like to. You are the author. The constituent says, has Parksville run out of drinking water? Mr. Russell's reply was no. The city of Parksville is in the privileged position of having two robust drinking water sources, the Englishman River and a groundwater well system. We can meet all drinking water and fire protection needs now and into the future with these systems. We use water conservation measures in summer months to manage outdoor water demands and reducing unnecessary water use when there are significant seasonal weather events, as in drought, allows the city to support the ecology of the river and protect the potable water supply. Mr. Russell can also comment on that our growth plans projected, like with the OCP and so forth, for the growth that we are considering today. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That we have not ever even come close to what our projected growth factors were, and our infrastructure and so forth has been sized and maintained accordingly to allow for considerably more growth of what we're putting in here and much more to that as well. So the constant, I know it's a concern because where's the water going to come from? But it's the perception is that since we go into conservation measures in the summertime, indicates to some people that we do not have enough water. We don't have enough water, but we just want to be better stewards of that water by protecting the conservation and to maintain the flow rate in the Englishman River during drought conditions that Mother Nature throws on us, but that's what we do. So that's just my comment about you want to make sure the infrastructure keeps up with our growth. In this case, our previous staff and engineering department have made sure that that is happening. So I'm not sure that that's a consideration that needs to be. It does need to be addressed, but I believe our staff have done it capably and amicably with our people. But at the same time, recognizing that we have the comprehensive water study moving forward, but that comprehensive water study is going to provide adaptations to our water storage for future supply. And we have to take those steps now to protect 50 years from now. And I think it's prudent that we do so, and we'll continue on that path. But as far as the growth that we have going on in the next 5 years, we have more than enough capacity in water. And the sewage treatment is also taken care of with a major expansion, as you know, as well. Anyway, just to your comments, Councillor Carr. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Fass. Yeah, you did have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through mayor to council, right now we're at the point where looking to advance this so that the public can get some information and then be able to provide some input that will get back to us. And also it opens the doors for the residents to contact us directly after they get a chance to see the presentation. I know there's a lot of unanswered questions to it, and it's yet to come down the path. So it leaves me curious with when you state your objection, Councillor Gore, is it out of principle for, to stop development because of those concerns? Is it not wanting to advance this through for public to get input onto it. Especially being that this was an item where yourself and the community were so opposed to. Now to see something come forward where they're looking to build that trust back with the community, they're looking to improve it, responding to the concerns. You know, when I hear you say that you're opposed to it at such an early stage here, how open of a mind are you allowing them for this kind of a project? So the question is, yeah, like what's basing your objection so early on before we get public feedback?
Thank you. Go ahead, Council.
Yes.
Response, Councillor Gore.
Yes, thank you. Mayor, I think the opposition to this project, since Councillor asked me directly, it goes back to, well, yes, the first proposal. It wasn't about, a lot of the opposition was just the floodplain that was being built and the density was being built. In the end, even the comments at this table were, this is not where the density belongs. To me, the opposition continues to have the impact of this density. Do we envision that? Is that the part of Parksville that's how we want to see as developed? That's my big question. And the impact of these future full-time residents closer to the river, that's not, to me, it does not agree with me. And I don't see its compatibility with the neighboring properties. And the reason, like I said previously, historically, why this land was taken into Parksville to begin with, were those conservation purposes. It has ecological value. So the impact on this continues to affect my judgment in moving forward this high density project. I did mention some really good things that I like about this proposal, but the current concerns about the higher density continue. Same.
I'll just respond quickly if I could. Yeah, and I appreciate that, Councillor Gore, but I recognize that also at that end of town, like when the area, the resort area was actually incorporated into the city of Parksville and so forth. Part of that incorporation was to include a very high density development, which was Craig Bay Estates. And that was one of the reasons for the incorporation, because I know I was in the neighborhood adjacent to that and so got to vote on that at the same time. So I'm very aware of that. But however, I have to say that the Craig Bay Estates, I think, is a very favorable development. I think it was extremely high density for what it was. I remember when it was a sheep farm. So moving back to what it was a very well thought out development, and has been enjoyed by many of our new residents to the area. So having said that, the template has already been made by what a good development can look like. And the other thing, the other part that concerns me about you actually suggesting that you are saying no to this proposal this time, it concerns me and disappoints me, because it means that you're saying no to a contribution of 100 acres of parkland in Parksville. And that concerns me. It really does. And so that's unfortunate. But at the same time, I think that is disappointing. That's all I can say. So you can vote as you wish, sir. Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, considering our 30-30-30 resolution that we passed, it's something to consider that this land would go towards that 30-30-30. So you know, it's tricky for us to pass something that goes up on a provincial and even national scale on that, and then deny this at this early stage. To me, I'm not approving or denying the development at all. What we're approving or denying is listening to the public, and that might shape the bylaw that we might be approving or denying later on. And so I think my job here is to get public input and allow a private property owner to adjust plans if necessary. And I think our job here is to try to get a win-win for everybody. And I wouldn't feel good denying the public input as much as I think I might know what that public input might be. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Beale, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd just like to add that, you know, previously this council, I can think of one situation where we did not, in fact, advance something to that first next step. And in that case, there were so many ticks against it, and there was very little to really move it forward in all of it was unanimous. We voted against it.
No.
So for me, I want to look at, are there enough pros here to in fact move it to the next, because we don't want to send a message to the developer just to go ahead when we don't feel that there's really anything in there that provides benefit to the larger community or to the immediate neighborhood. But I don't see that here. And because of that, I will vote in favor of moving this to the next step so that the community, the larger community, can have more input, and we will also have more information at that point in time. So I will be supporting it.
Yeah, Councillor Brass and
Thank
then
you.
Councillor Grant.
Through the mayor to council, one of my main concerns right now too, and not to suggest that I think this is happening, but just as a warning that I think we need to keep in mind is having an open mind as we move forward with this, and something that is aligned with our OCP as it stands, and we're rejecting it, then to me, it risks that we're coming at it with a closed mind. So I think it's important at this point. I thought this would be a very simple one as far as at this stage to put it to the public.
Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. I appreciate the comments from council. Very wise words across the board. Thank you. I've now got a few years under my belt doing this and get a sense for when we advance things and when we don't. And to Councillor Beal's point, there have been things that have come before this council where the very initial proposal is just, yeah, sorry, please, it's not going to work. Thanks anyway. But for the most part, I see no reason, generally speaking, to advance things to the next stage if it generally looks like it's got something to work with. Now, in this case, we have a project that, well, before I get to that, I've also seen it happen where we have rejected something and the result is that the property owner does what they're permitted to do under their existing zoning, which turns out to be worse from a community perspective than what it would have been had the council approved their proposal. And I fear that this could be one of those situations where a proponent has come forward with a plan that does a much better job of listening to the community than the previous plan did. And frankly, the previous one was quite tone deaf to the community, I feel like, but that's just my opinion. And this one does start off on a better foot in listening much more to the community. And this is part one to me of a new conversation, hopefully. Hopefully we can put aside some of the past conversations on this and look forward to, okay, what is a vision for this property? What is a vision that our community can get behind? And having recently gone through the Hamilton Marsh process, coming to a completion with that, I had a small hand in that over many years. The baton's been handed down to the current regional district board. I'm an alternate on that, so I participated in some of those discussions. The amount of effort and money and resources it takes to preserve land at the local government level is incredible. It's very, very difficult. Here we have a situation where we could get the size of land that is very large. It's like, I don't know how this is compared to Hamilton Marsh. I think it's quite a bit bigger. That would be preserved under this proposal. And so if someone's coming forward with something that would allow us to do this without having to go back once more to the taxpayer, the local property owner taxpayer, and say, ante up again to preserve more land, this is pretty exciting to me. And we've done it in many different ways over the past few years now that I've seen this table and the regional district table. Different ways of getting more and more land that can be preserved for not just for habitat, but also for recreational purposes, which we all value. With increased density, we do need more publicly owned lands that people who don't have their own private land to their own backyards, we need more public lands so that we have a shared backyard. So for those reasons, I'm excited about what could be possible with this plan. But I do hope that there will be a robust conversation in the community about it, a thoughtful, taking a step back conversation, trying to step away from some of the past dissension that this project has caused, because it created a lot of dissension in the community. I would like to see that set aside so that we can just think about, okay, what kind of legacy do we want to have moving forward, both for both for the preservation of the land, but also the vision for what Parksville looks like from a housing and community and neighborhood, and all the other things that come into play with that. Let's have that conversation. This is the beginning of that. I very much encourage the proponent of this project to make sure that that is a very robust process over the coming months, so that we can come at the end of this with something that everybody can be proud of. And I hope that we can do that.
Thank you. Councilor Martin. Then
I
I'm gonna
didn't-
wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't really want to say anything more, but you mentioned, and this, I don't know that's considered to be the same neighborhood, but Craig Bay and that development and the foresight of the people who developed that property was really quite something, because there's people from all over the world that live there. I do. And they are so in love with it. You can't imagine. They feel so blessed that they could live in a place like that. Now, this project is for a missing middle. It is not $1 million unit, right? There is a missing middle. And I think that this project is, if it does go through, would give that opportunity for people to have, you know, some outdoor space around them and not so crowded, but they have a community around them too. So I'm looking forward to hearing the public input. And I just wanted to say that it really is sincerely appreciated, the Craig Bay property. And that was foresight, huge, 30 years to do that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And those opposed? I note that Councilor Gore is opposed. Thank you. Great conversation. The next report we have today before us, council, is from the Director of Community Planning and Building, a follow-up report for a development variance permit application at 399 Kingsley Street to consider the issuance of a development variance permit. Before moving on and asking for a mover and seconder, I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the gallery who wishes to provide comment to council on this proposed variance. Please indicate so now. Seeing none, thank you. I would like a request a mover and seconder for the recommendation then, please. Moved by Councilor Wood, second by Councilor Martin. Any discussion? All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. I'm going to ask for a 10-minute break. I want to have a 10-minute quick recess here. We will reconvene at 3:23. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome back. It is now 3:24. Let's carry on with our report from the Manager of Administrative Services regarding the 2025 Spring Grant and Aid applications. Financial grant and aid applications from community groups and organizations. Do I have a mover or seconder for the recommendations as noted? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Gore. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. And this time up on the list, I can advise that I will appoint Councillors Beal and Gower as the representatives for the spring grant and aid application process. Thank you. The next report is from the Chief Election Officer regarding the mail ballot voting option for consideration regarding the option of mail ballot voting for the upcoming local government elections. Go ahead, Amanda. Are you coming up to the podium or are you working from there? Okay.
Either way. I've just got a quick presentation. Get it to work. There we go.
Gender neutral.
So yeah, this is just a brief presentation regarding the process, should council choose to do mail ballot voting in the upcoming election. So currently it is not authorized in our bylaw. So that is part of the process today is should you wish to have it included, we will have to amend the bylaw. In the past, legislation did limit who could vote in mail ballot voting. In 2021, the province expanded it. So anybody who is eligible to vote could vote by mail, as long as it was in the municipality's bylaws. Mail ballot voting also helps reduce barriers. It just offers a flexible alternative to in-person voting. So somewhat hard to see on the big screen here, but this is where the process would start. Should council go forward with mail ballot voting, it would be likely in September. People who are interested in voting by mail would have to apply. So this would be a sample application form. We'd require their information, name, address. They would declare that they're eligible to vote, and they would be required to provide 2 pieces of identification. They would also note whether they're picking up their mail ballot, having it mailed, or having somebody authorized to pick up on their behalf, and then they would sign. So once we receive that application, the CEO or my deputy, we would review and make sure that it's filled out completely and accurately and ensure that the 2 pieces of ID are to our satisfaction, and only then would they be issued a mail ballot. If it's not to our complete satisfaction, unfortunately, we would go back to them or it would just be denied. We would keep all the information in a worksheet. And then once we've received the ballots, the packages would be sent or picked up, depending on what they picked on the application form. That's likely around the end of September. So in the mail ballot package, we would have an information sheet. So that would show the requirements for voting, the acceptable forms of ID. There would be an instruction sheet on how to complete the ballot and how to fill in the ballot. There would be a registration form or for either resident or non-resident. And for those that are non-resident, there would be a consent form as well, as if you're a non-resident, you do need approval from the majority of all the people that own that piece of property to be eligible to vote. There would also be a notice in there. So it's an offense to copy or reproduce the ballot per section 163 of the Local Government Act. Obviously, the ballot would be in there, and then 3 different envelopes. So there's a secrecy envelope, the certificate envelope, and the return envelope. So the voter would complete the registration form that would be in the package. So this involves writing their name, their address. They need to present 2 pieces of identification to a witness. The witness views that and also signs on the registration form. So that is similar when somebody comes in to vote to show their ID to an election official. The voter would then sign and date the certificate of identity, which is on the previous slide here. It's shown on envelope 2. So again, they're certifying that they are eligible to vote. And again, similar to signing in the voter book when they come into the voting place. And then they fill in the ballot. So they would fold that and put that into the secrecy envelope 1, which would go into envelope 2, with the registration form, and both those documents would go into envelope 3, and then that would be returned to our office prior to Saturday, October 17th. So it would be the obligation of the voter to ensure that we receive the ballot before 8 p.m. on Saturday, the 17th. Anything received after 8 p.m. unfortunately cannot be counted. No matter what the postmark or other proof of trying to deliver, we need it in our hands before 8 p.m. on Saturday, October 17th. And if we do receive it, all the information needs to be required, otherwise we cannot submit. So when we receive the mail ballot packages, we would open return envelope 3. So that would include the envelope that has the ballot. We do not open that envelope. And that would also include the registration form. So we would examine that document to make sure that it is complete and has everything needed, and it corresponds with the application form as well. And if it is accepted, we put it in a locked container and would put that in on voting day. So like I mentioned, certificate envelope 2 with the ballot is not opened at that time. That is opened on the 17th. So mail ballots would be rejected if any of the following are not satisfactorily met. So if there's question about the identity of the elector, if their certification is not complete, if the registration requirements have not been met, or if it's received after 8 p.m. So if we do receive them ahead of time and it's missing a signature or something, we could try and contact the voter to try and get it to be complete. But that's it, only if there is time to do so. And then processing the ballots on voting day. So they will remain sealed in a secure location until the end of voting. They will be, envelope 2 can be opened at a certain time on the 17th, and the same with envelope 1. We would invite any candidate representatives to observe the processing of them prior to putting them in the mail, in the voting machine, sorry. And in the presence of any candidate representatives and at least one other election official, we'd put the ballots through the voting machines. And that is essentially high level of the process. So if there's any questions.
Thanks so much, Amanda, on that. Just a couple of comments, if I may. Are there any other areas within our jurisdiction, so to speak, Oceanside and around us, that are already using mail-in ballots as per the past election?
Yes, Qualicum has done them for many, many years. You know, RDN does, City of Nanaimo, I believe the City of Port Alberni as well, and the ACRD.
Thank you. And as I understand it, as was explained anyways, that this was predominantly brought to focus during COVID. And when people were not allowed to be getting out of their homes and so forth. And heaven help us if it ever happens again, but it could. And it'd be better be prepared this time with possible mail-in ballots and have the process already in place. And so that's, I'm thankful that this process is being followed anyways, as per instructions from this council. So that's the comments I have. Any other comments? Councillor Frass, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council and staff, I have a couple questions first that I'll start with, and then a comment there too. So to staff, you mentioned that mail-in ballots are currently available for certain circumstances or select individuals. Is that correct?
We don't have it.
Not at
We
all?
don't have it at this time. No, it's
I
not.
thought,
in the
I
bylaw.
thought at the beginning you said that it was.
So under legislation, it used to be that it was only in certain circumstances, and in 2021 legislation did change. So any eligible voter could apply for mail ballot voting as long as the municipality had it in their bylaws that they would offer it.
Okay, then I guess the curiosity is what kind of circumstances did they allow for previously?
Do you remember?
Yeah. So in the past, you used to have to prove that you were out of the country or out of the city on voting day. And there were some, if you had a disability or valid reason for not being able to get to the polling stations, but the default was that they wanted people to vote in person. And in 2021, the province changed that and made it like anyone can choose it if they wish, even if you're here or if you can get to the polling.
All right. The other question then, you mentioned about someone having to come in and apply for this mail-in ballot. Is the certification envelope that then comes with the vote cross-reference to the application to make sure that only certified envelopes that votes will be accepted from matches the applications that went out? Is
Yes.
that the intent there? Okay. Those help me a lot with a lot of my primary concerns. I guess now to council, I do have a lot of reservation about mail-in ballots in general, though. I asked the mayor if I could put forward a motion on this. It's different than the recommendation before the recommendation motion comes out, but I think either way, I want to lay out my argument, and then we'll go with what council wishes here. But primarily my concern comes from working at polling stations for the provincial and federal level. I've seen when people come in there, groups, families, friends, and so on, to come polling, the environment that they get to vote in and how votes can try to be influenced at the polling station as well. So it's not against, I just drafted some of my notes here to keep my thoughts organized. It's not about being against the accessibility and the principle, but it's about whether the protest protects the secrecy, the independence and integrity of the vote as good as in-person voting does. At polling stations, everyone has a chance to step behind the privacy screen alone and mark their ballots privately, and it matters. I've seen the situations where a family member is clearly trying to influence another person there, but the safeguard to that is that in the end, the voter goes to the voting booth alone and can vote their conscience. Okay, with the mail-in ballot, that safeguard is gone. We cannot know if the person who filled it out had done it privately, freely, and without pressure from anyone else in their home or around them. I'm also concerned that the system relies heavily on the voter list accuracy and people honestly self-certifying. If a ballot's requested or issued in the name of someone who's deceased or moved or otherwise no longer eligible, then the question whether the controls are strong enough to stop that from being used or counted improperly. I know we mentioned that there's some safeguards that the 2 pieces ID that they need to come up there. So in that respect, it reflects when they're at the polling station as well. But at least the other concern that a signed certification envelope is not the same thing as an act of prevention. Someone intent on cheating can still lie on a declaration, and it's a paper trail that may only help after the fact, but doesn't stop the act in the moment. So when I look at the report, I don't quite see a strong enough case for adding it to our voting stream, because I'm not sure, as I mentioned, that there's a big demand for it. And then also if the workload justifies the amount of effort and the risk that we're going to be taking on here too. We saw earlier with the Legion, how concerned we are taking our staff time in just a small aspect. And here, this is going to require a fairly significant amount of staff time in a short time frame window as well, to just gain a potential small, few more votes to make it a little bit easier. Perhaps it's not even the fact that someone is in the country or out of the country. It just is maybe a preference out of that. I think an easier way to do that might be through the advanced voting and maybe broadening that kind of structure that we already have in place, instead of adding this kind of complexity to it. So I'm not in favor of this. I want to hear you guys' thoughts, but primarily, like I mentioned, I was wanting to put a motion forward rejecting this process to be advanced.
So, yeah, I think we can take this like an open conversation here, because based on questions to Amanda. So yeah, let's get counsel. So without Councillor Frass having to put it through a motion to reject. Go ahead, Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question through to staff. First of all, thank you very much for the detailed report. Appreciate the work on that, Amanda. What kind of engagement have we done so far around the ideal of mail-in ballots? Have we done anything on Let's Talk Parksville or anything like that to get a sense of what the demand for it would be? No.
Through you, Mayor. No, we have not done anything at this point. Nothing's on Let's Talk Parksville quite yet. We're getting it wrapped up towards the end of this month, so everything should be live in April.
Go ahead, Sierra Taylor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to maybe mention from council's perspective, this was brought forward by council in 2022. And so I guess perhaps a question back to council is how people wouldn't come and talk to staff about it, I don't think necessarily. So it would be like have folks talk to you guys about it. It was one of the first, you might forget because it was a bit of a whirlwind at the beginning, but it was one of the first motions that council passed in 2022. So it's been in the public realm since that time, but we have not been given direction to do direct engagement on this particular thing. We were just told to come back with the framework for adopting it.
Mayor, can I make a small correction there?
Go ahead.
This item actually came up in the previous council term and it was rejected by council that time as well. And at that time too, it wasn't, we'd asked about if it was driven by residents or by staff and so on. It had some of the same concerns as far as the staff time and these complexities to it. Now, the answer was that it actually was driven by the province. So the fact that it surfaced and again, one of the, very early on our council meeting, it was not its first time. I don't recall or know quite where that came from, but it was actually previously rejected.
Yes, and
That's correct.
I could comment as well that the previous the discussion was anything to encourage the amount of people actually creating a ballot, like actually voting to get the voter participation up. If it made it easier by some people that may be unable with disabilities or whatever to leave their home and so forth, it made it easier for them to actually vote, then we thought that would be a good thing. If it's more convenient for them to actually maybe increase our voting participation was one of the pluses that this would provide. And so that's why we thought that it was worth pursuing, or I know the comments at the floor. Yeah. Follow up, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I had a follow-up question. And yeah, definitely agree. We want to increase voter participation in our democracy as much as we can. And we're fortunate, I think, in our community that we do have pretty good, one of the higher voter participation rates. But question to the staff as well is, as we are, we're kind of vetting this idea a bit more. Has there been any discussion with legal around any potential legal matters that might arise from introducing this added?
If I may, no, we haven't had legal just because it is very well spelled out in the legislation in a step-by-step framework. However, we have been using supportive service from a person who developed the bylaw for several of the communities around. So we've been adding capacity to our existing capacity with an individual who had a lot of experience with this in other communities. And we did a lot of internal, like what could go wrong, conversations to try and head off any issues. And I think, you can't, whether it's voting in person or voting in the privacy of your home, we see people, I will say it is often wives, trying to influence the vote of their partners. And while we do intervene and make sure that the individual goes behind the voting thing on their own, I've had to actually remove a woman from the voting area because she's, telling her partner who to vote for. So you can't completely stop that. And I think a lot of people do have conversations about their votes. But we just all we can do is let people know that the secrecy of the vote is a very important thing. And, we can physically separate people from behind the voting screen in a voting station, but I'm pretty sure those people are still influenced by the person that they're coming in and leaving with.
Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few questions, and I have also worked with both Elections Canada as well as BC Elections BC. And in my case, the one I needed to absolutely remove from the other was a fellow who was trying to do the other. So, I think it probably works out over time. I do think that there can be a lot of safeguards. One thing, couple of questions I do have, just because I appreciate that there's a lot of detail there. And one question I have is on voting day, remind me, do we have more than one voting place? I thought we had two. So presumably as well, if we do approve mail-in ballots or a mail ballot that people are somehow crossed off the voting list, so we know they voted, or there's some mechanism in place. Is that electronic at this point in time, or I didn't think so. So that's literally, so are the mail-in ballots basically collected and kept separately and then cross-reference with the voting list so that somebody doesn't come in and vote in person. And then also and sometimes that can be accidental, honestly, like they've forgotten that they did it the one way. But can you speak a little bit about the checks and balances with that?
Through your mayor to Councillor Beal. We don't deal with the voters list. We do same day voter registration, but we do keep track of all voters in a spreadsheet, we would do the same thing with the mail ballot voting. And anybody who comes in to vote on one of the voting days, like they do sign, and our election officials do state you're signing because you have not, like, you're eligible to vote. You have not already voted in this election. So they are signing a declaration on that, but we do the double check and make sure that we don't have duplicate names and that the addresses are within the city of Parks, et cetera.
Yeah. Sorry if I may, we put it all into, so there's a lot of work behind it. So the people who are sitting at the table taking the information, we put it all into a digital spreadsheet after, and we do audit checks to make sure that someone from 100 Jensen Avenue didn't vote more than one time. And if they did, it's different names. And so you're like, okay, so it's very easy to see if there's issues when you sort them in the spreadsheet.
I just think it's reassuring for people to know that there are those checks and balances for that. I have a couple of other questions. One has to do with, so what kind of advance time is anticipated if we do go ahead with mail ballots? So I'm just thinking of the time for both that, okay, it's available, you could request this because it needs to then be sent out. And I will say, as an aside, I did encounter people who were not aware that there could be curbside, or I have, back in campaigning, meeting people who said, well, I'm not going to be able to even go because of this situation or that, usually health related issues. So, and they didn't know that. So how do we get that information out, and what kind of lead time is anticipated for this?
Okay, so there's a couple of questions there. So the first is, we are, as we mentioned, we're going to be ramping up a lot of our election marketing, so to speak, in a neutral way, of course, in the next little while. We will be setting up a Let's Talk Parksville site with all of the information for both candidates or people who may want to be candidates and for voters. And closer to the election time, we'll have frequently asked questions from candidates in there as well, so that all candidates have access to the same information. So we'll make sure that there's a lot of information on that and on all our social media and everything on if council decides to allow this additional option. In addition to that, we also go to some of the care homes. Amanda and Sarah will check usually if there's anyone there that's still eligible to vote. We do have curbside voting at all advance and general voting day. So we'll have 2 advanced voting days. Just a bit of a plug right now for anyone that's trying to plan ahead. That's going to be on the 7th. And so we always do it the Wednesdays. So the 7th and the 14th, that's correct. And then we have general voting day on the 17th and 2 voting locations, and the polls are open 8 to 8. So there is that opportunity, of course. And if council adds this additional one, then we will make sure that there's ample information on the Let's Talk Parksville election tile and just through all of our normal processes. And I think is it 3 weeks? What's the lead time on the ballot? You put in your report that it's 18 to 20 days. But yeah, so again, we'll communicate the dates, but yeah, you do have to have advance notice, obviously, to get the ballot mailed to you, or you can come and pick it up, or an authorized person can come and pick it up. So we'll make sure we have all those dates, but I would say people need to plan for about 3 weeks ahead of when they want to get a mail in, if council approves it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And I seem to recall being out in the community that a concern was raised about the availability for people who were snowbirds to vote, because I met many people who would leave immediately after Thanksgiving. They were gone. And so they were gone and unavailable. Now, perhaps there's less of that, with our neighbors to the south, but that's another group that could potentially find it easier to vote.
If I might just make a comment on that, folks who've been around a while might remember, the voting day has been moved forward a month. It used to be November and it was 3-year cycle. And I think our anecdotal feel is that that does assist with most folks who may or may not be going anywhere this year, but quite a few of them are still around, and that 1 week after Thanksgiving is the 12th, I think, around there. So it's relatively close, so that we have noticed, you know, like more, like people tend to leave in, like for November, there was a lot more people gone. October, they're still often around for family stuff, but yes. So there's been changes provincially that have, you know, trickled down to us, obviously. But, you know, this, I think the province expanded it probably on the same kind of concerns that people just want the extra convenience. So now it's an option for council, whereas it wasn't until after 2021.
Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. One is about Access Oceanside Association. Maybe there's been some interest through our liaison for this. That might be interesting. The second is, would the amount of staff time, work, effort, and perhaps cost, does that balance out with the uptake so that if we get a lot of them used, then yes, it will cost a little bit more staff time and cash, but if it's not a lot of uptake, then maybe it doesn't as much. And then one last comment is that it's just a little bit of irony that anyone who is running is going to try their best to convince the people of how to vote. And so, you know, of course, there's going to be some people trying to convince other people how to vote. I think the concern that I was listening to Councillor Fraz is like kind of under duress. And we don't know whose pen is actually on the piece of paper, whereas at physical polling stations we do. So I think it is a decent point. I'm not, you know, here nor there on this issue yet, but I just thought I'd mention it.
Thanks. My only comment is that this council brought it forward to ask our staff to prepare a mail-in ballot system. So like, let's not go through that again. We already asked them to do it. Let's not talk about capacity because they have built it in to this part of the election procedure to be done before this election. That was our instruction. So let's not go through that all over again. Councillor Fraz, go ahead. Oh, sure.
Thank you. First time speakers. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Put your hand up bigger, you know.
I did twice.
Come on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to thank Councillor Wood for actually bringing this forward 4 years ago, or close to 4 years ago. I think this increases the opportunity for a lot of our seniors, people with disability, to be able to exercise their democratic right to have a say in local elections. And thank you to Councillor Frath to making sure that process is authentic. It's something we can trust and have a lot of faith in. I, as you know, work with seniors and I interact with a lot of seniors in the community. There has always been this ask, like federally we do it, provincially we do it, surrounding municipalities all do it. How come we are so skeptical that somehow people in Parksville are the tricksters who's going to do a lot of voter fraud? Those are the valid questions, though. But in the end, I think if you look at a full pattern of how things work out with our voters, I think a lot of them are very curious. They take it very seriously, their right to vote, and the ballot secrecy. So I am thankful for staff to incorporate that into the work plan. I look forward to supporting it, having this additional opportunity for our demographic to be able to part of this process. Thank you very much.
Councillor Press.
Thank you. Earlier when I asked staff what kind of circumstances previously were allowed, you'd mentioned that there were some proven circumstances where they could do it. I think if we were going to bring back any kind of mail-in ballot voting, that it should be under that same guidance of that the previous proven circumstances, and not just open it widespread now to anyone who wants to do it that way. Particularly too, the lack of public engagement that was brought up as well. It hasn't gone out to the public for their feedback on it. I know there's been some people that feel one way, some people that feel another way. But again, the staff time, I think, is not necessary for what we get out of it. I just want to ask, I missed the comment on the irony. Can you just repeat, what was the irony?
Yes, go ahead,
That you have to
Councillor.
convince people to vote in an election and then that it's trying to limit the way that they vote? Or what was the comment?
Councillor Wood.
Through yourself.
As a response, Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Through yourself, no. We might be concerned about someone else influencing a vote, not at a physical voting station, but anyone who is running is doing their darndest to convince someone how to vote.
Okay, I get the irony.
Satisfied?
Yeah, no, I think it's funny, yeah.
Sometimes some brevity is sometimes appreciated.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
I approve of this. We put it in our work plan and everyone around us, all the different communities are doing it. And I think we need to shape up and allow people who are, not able to get out or are going to be away or something to be able to do this. So, and the people that are not necessarily seniors, but a little older, take it very seriously, the vote. So if they're going to miss voting, it's not good. So if this opens it up for them, I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll try and sum it up here. I have to say that I was concerned as well for the individuals that want to vote in a Parksville election, but don't live in Parksville. And that's a great deal of people because they are going by their mailing address. And so I've spoken to staff in how do we qualify that the person is actually registered voter that actually lives in the city of Parksville or pays taxes here. And so that is an ongoing discussion. As we know, the weekly, we get many people advising that they want to participate in our elections, so forth, and they live outside the urban containment boundary. So our staff has convinced me that there's enough checks and balances in place to make sure that that doesn't happen, no matter how much they want to. But yeah, there's your irony. Once again, they really want to vote for us. They do. But in the meantime, I feel confident anyways that those checks and balances are in place. And so I will be supporting this motion once we put it on the floor. So I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation regarding the mail ballot voting option. I have a mover and seconder moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Gower. Any further discussion? Councillor Grant, go ahead.
Thank you. Not sure if it's requires an amendment, but I do think that by and large, that further to Councillor Fraz's comments, that we should encourage where possible in-person voting and make this more as a backup option. There are a number of reasons for that. One is that I think the more people vote this way, the more we do open ourselves up to legal concerns that someone may contest the validity of the process of those ballots and how they're handled and all that sort of thing. And we cannot afford to be the legal fees over an election and the delays and all the things that can come from if that were to arise. That's kind of like a worst case scenario thing that we should be alive to. And the other thing is that I believe that democracy should be a communal thing. It's not something you should do in the corner of your home. And I feel like there's something about us all going wherever possible, standing in line together. I think it's something that we all, every 4 years or however often they happen now, people are coming together and demonstrating their right to vote in election, which is not something that everyone has available to them in the world. And I think when we do that in an interactive, like together way, where we're physically with each other, there is an extra energy to that we should encourage. So the mail-in ballot, I do support that, but more as a backup option to make it more possible for more people to participate, but not as the eventual default option for voting.
I too appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Grants, but at the same time, to make it more convenient for people to vote, other than mail-in voting, I have to say that our staff, I know I'm very familiar with, our staff actually takes the ballot boxes and they go to areas such as group homes and so forth, who allow those people to vote in person without having to mail in a ballot. So
Yeah,
our-
and
our-
advanced polls, like we have lots of things that make it easier
yeah,
to
yeah,
vote.
but literally carrying the ballot box to their site where they're located at the seniors' homes anyways, where it's very difficult for them to get out. So we're making it so they don't have to use a mail-in ballot, that they could actually vote in person and in the
Got
process.
it. Excellent. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to kind of underline that this
Yeah,
should be
I-
more of a backup
yeah.
as opposed to the status quo moving forward.
Yeah, and the advanced polls have made that possible, as well as making sure that those polling stations are in convenient places for the majority of the people. Yeah, that's right. Councillor Fraz, go ahead.
Thanks to council, to the mayor, and those to the point there too of like allowing it under circumstances. You know, if maybe even they self-declared that they're unable to make it to advance poll or to on voting day, and so they're requesting the mail-in ballot. So it's not just becoming the primary way for them to vote. So maybe if it had that kind of declaration and their application to receive the mail-in ballot, that's something I'd be willing to get behind.
Okay. Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Another thought.
Sorry, CAO Kaler has a comment on the last.
Well, I'll just,
statement.
sorry, through the mayor, we can't, okay, how to back up. So, I don't think we can do what's being discussed around, making it so that someone has to have a reason, because we don't have that delegated authority. We can either do it or not do it. And so the legislation says we can have a mail-in ballot system, but we can't, I don't think we can be more restrictive. We'd have to get legal advice before doing that. Because we just double check the legislation and it says we can have procedures like what we mentioned, but I don't think we can take away someone's right. And then also there's going to be additional staff time, because how do our delegated officials determine if someone has a disability? We do not have the right to that information. So there's some other legal challenges, and then there's privacy issues and other things that I don't think that's possible. So I think council should probably proceed on the expectation that is not possible, that it's you either stick with what the overarching legislation delegates the authority to us for. And if we have a mail-in ballot, anyone can do it. Anyone can choose to choose that option. I think to the mayor's point, though, we do everything we can to make it as easy and as accessible. We have 3 in-person voting days. We have 2 locations on general voting day. We visit places when requested, so that those do folks, it's like a certain time, right? So there's kind of like a little mini polling station happens and people do come together and it is a bit social and it's kind of fun. But I don't think we can be half in and half out. I think it's all or nothing with just you either have a choice to have that option or not.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
I was going to mention when you apply for it, maybe there would be a box where you said, you know, why are you doing this? But you're saying with privacy reasons, you can't. No. Okay.
Yeah, sorry if I made through the mayor, we have no right to information unless we're given that right through some kind of legislation. So there are certain circumstances where we can ask you for your address and your like where you live and we can ask you for your age to a point. We can ask if you're over a certain age. But otherwise we're not allowed to have, I'm not allowed as a local government official to ask somebody if they believe they have a disability or to be the judge of that. And I'm not allowed to keep that information. So it becomes very tricky. I'm not sure. I mean, if council really wants us to pursue that, we would have to go back and get a more fulsome legal opinion. But just reading the delegation of this authority to us, we are either choosing to have a mail-in ballot option for all equal, everyone can pick it, or we're not.
Councillor Beale, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I imagined when this topic came up was more along the lines of within Let's Talk Parksville, that we encourage people to take advantage of in-person voting, you know, whenever possible, and here's the information. But clearly, what goes out in terms of the mail-in has to be just, technically legal, clear, et cetera. But in that other communication, we can try to encourage people to vote in person.
Thank you. All those in favor? Yeah, it's moved by Councillor Wood and Councillor Gar. All those in favor? And those opposed? I note Councillor Fraz is opposed. Thank you. Council, the next report is from the Chief Election Officer again for the local government election information update. If you could update us, Amanda, on this latest, please.
Yes, through you, the mayor. This was just an information report. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. You all got that information report. Okay, so do I have a mover or seconder for the report as per your agenda? Moved by Councillor Gore, seconded by Councillor Wood. Any discussion on the report? All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimous. Bylaws for 3 readings. We have the Election Procedures and Automatic Vote Authorization Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 1506.3, to amendment to permit the mail ballot voting. Mover or seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Gretz, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. I know Councillor Fraz is opposed. Thank you. Carry on to notices of motion. We have 1 notice of motion on the agenda today. Councillor Gore, regarding your motion that you provided in advance, thank you. Opposition to provincial budget 2026. It has been advanced to us, and that's why it's on the agenda for today. Councillor Gore, I think it's worthwhile that you actually read it, if you would, for our public to understand.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. So my motion is the opposition to the current provincial budget that was announced for 2026. And the recommendation is that council formally express its concern to the province of BC regarding the budget 2026 measures that, taken together, increase the risk that long-term residents will be forced out of their homes, including the proposed changes to the BC's property tax deferment program that will raise the cost of deferring property taxes for people who rely on it to remain housed, particularly seniors, surviving spouses, persons with disabilities, and families financially supporting dependent children, and the indefinite closure of the community housing fund that local governments and nonprofit partners rely on to help build affordable rental housing for low-income residents, including seniors and people with disabilities. That council requests the province to amend the budget 2026 to ensure seniors and families are not taxed or priced out of their homes, while municipalities are facing increasing pressures to deliver essential services during an ongoing cost of living crisis. And further, that staff be directed to prepare a letter for the mayor's signature to the premier, the Minister of Finance, and the MLA for Ladysmith Oceanside, with copies to the Minister of Housing and UBCM.
Thank you. And then that is moved by Councillor Gore, and I'm seconding that since I was named to be the signatory on this. So I'll second it. I'll leave it to Councillor Gore to make first comment on this motion. Thank you.
Yes, 1 second, Mayor, sorry. My computer.
That's okay. Go ahead. While we're waiting for Councillor Gore, I can comment in the discussion as a seconder that I too will be making a specific address to the provincial counterparts regarding the closure of the community housing, the community housing fund, the cancellation of that, specifically with numbers, and which includes amount of costs that already been incurred by these organizations and ourselves to make this happen, to have it canceled retroactively. So I'll be specifically sending that one out as well. But Councillor Gore, yours is more in general as well as the deferred program. So go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you. I understand Mayor had some conversations with council members. I know some of them support either two requests on this motion. Some support both of them. There's some support for one of them. There is some additional things in the budget that the council members are not pleased to see. But as advocacy being one of our strategic priorities, I thought it would be appropriate for us to express our disappointment with this current budget. Specifically, two things in this motion are the deferment program and the changes that the province is proposing is the increase in the interest rate, which is currently prime -2, is now prime +2%. And in addition to that, they are proposing a compounded interest being levied. So, and I understand I had conversations with the MLA as well on this. So in their terms, this is not a cash grab from the province. However, I believe some multi-million homeowners who are abusing this system, there's a way for the province to address that through income testing or whatever they may be. And specifically, the compounding interest to me eats away further into the equity that usually the seniors passing on to their children and the next generation. So I see a lot of problems with this deferment program changes. And we have to see in Parksville, I think, thanks for the staff to give me some statistics on this, about 670 property owners defer their taxes. These are the seniors who are seeing, because of the decisions that we make, because the pressures we feel as local governments, 6.8% increase in property taxes, 6.3% increase in property taxes. This is all cumulative year after year. And most of our seniors, as we know from the income statistics for Parksville, they are not very high income seniors. They are on fixed income, and a lot of them rely on these deferment programs. So they can have the essentials, like whether it's the groceries or medical bills or anything that they need. So specifically about the deferment program, I would like to address that. These are my concerns. I would love to hear what other council members have done the research on this and this project. I know different provinces do it differently. And I think as per the minister, the province of BC is now just trying to catch up and be in line with others. But I think there's an opportunity here for BC to amend this program further so in-need seniors don't lose out on this program. Thank you. And I guess we can discuss the housing fund.
Let's discuss this one first.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Let's discuss the deferred, and that's good. You broke it out anyways. I mean, yes, I appreciate that. Speaking to the motion that Councillor Dora was speaking of the deferment, I agree 100%. And just for clarity, that it's not the multi-million-dollar houses, but there is a cap on your assessed value of deferred. There's a cap placed on that, that if your house value is above such and such, you can't defer those taxes. But so people have that value, like up over $1 million in the house through no fault of their own. It's just that the assessed value has increased. But my problem is with knowing, I guess we know too much. We know about the ever increasing burden of more taxes and tax increases that we're trying so hard at this table to avert. But there's other ones that we can't change, and in particularly, I'm speaking of Oceanside area, that we know, for those of us at the RDN table that are participating in the hospital improvements for NRGH and so forth, we know that there is a large percentage tax increase coming to all homeowners in the NRGH territory. And that is very unfortunate, because that is going to be a major impact on seniors that need these healthcare services, all that we're proposing through the NRGH board. So, but it's going to be substantial increases for them now to be taxed further, to actually make it more of a burden for them to do it by changing the interest rate on it. And they already had, many seniors have an aversion to actually doing this, because it's like putting a mortgage back on your home. That is all that they have left. And it's unfortunate because the Minister of Finance had said it was to prevent abuse of some wealthy individuals that are taking advantage of that program, and they want to close that loophole. And fair enough, that's a fair comment. But the percentage of those that are doing it to change the whole thing is like literally the baby out with the bathwater out the window. So to me, that is not sufficient reason for the provincial government to come down hard on those that feel the need to defer their taxes in a reasonable program, which it was. And it worked very well for a number of years. So I too, I'm fully supportive of this motion at this time. Thank you. Councillor Grant, go ahead. Speaking to the diversion section
Okay.
of the motion.
To the first clause, you're saying, or? Okay. Well, okay, thank you through the mayor to council, and actually through to Councillor Gore. Thank you for bringing this forward. There's certainly a lot of concerns that I've heard and have seen in the most recent budget. $10 a day daycare, adding PST. There are any number of things that that are concerning to the community and to individuals that are what happens when the province needs more revenue, I guess. So that said, I do have some concerns about the motion itself, because the motion says that the measures taken together increase the risk that long-term residents will be forced out of their homes, including, and then it lists the two things, the property tax deferment program and the funding for community housing fund. And I don't actually think that that is what's happening from those two. It doesn't force people out of their homes. It just means that when you sell your home, you're going to get less money back because more of your equity has been taken by the provincial government by adding more interest rates. It doesn't make you more likely to sell your home sooner or get out of your home. It's just taxes more of the unrealized gains on your property. So it taxes the wealth a bit more. There can be situations where, and I guess generally getting into the weeds on this, maybe that's not where I need to go, because I'm not the provincial government. It's more of what am I as a local government person trying to say. I feel like the motion itself doesn't capture what the situation is. So as it stands right now, I can't support it because it just doesn't logically follow that because there's no more non-market housing funding, that is going to force people out of their homes. It doesn't. It just means that more people won't get a home. They won't get that non-market housing. And I also don't think that people are more likely to are going to be forced out of their homes by, they're still going to be able to defer their property taxes. It's just going to cost more. What's more likely to force people out of their homes is increasing property taxes. So when we increase property taxes here and people aren't deferring their property taxes and choose not to do that because they don't want to pay interest on it, then that is more likely to force people out of their home and maybe downsize to a home that would have lower property taxes, because there's a difference between having wealth and having income. So you could be in a situation where you own a $5 million home, but have only $500 a month in income. And that's a common thing that happens for folks that have lived in homes for a long time, and then they're on a fixed pension. In those situations, how would you income test that then? You income test the value of the home. That would force people out of their home. If you say you can't defer your property taxes because it's a $5 million home, that would force you out of your home if you can't defer them because your home is. So if that's what we're trying to avoid, that is actually what would happen. So it's a very complex thing. And I don't think the motion quite captures what the true problem is. And for that reason, in its current form, I don't think it makes sense to send a letter asking for this because it doesn't logically add up.
So what I've heard is that you're suggesting that perhaps the statement of forcing people out of their homes is what you cannot actually agree with. But the reality is the true impact is going to be on the individuals that defer their taxes. They will have less to pass on as an inheritance to their estate, quite frankly, is what it is, considerably less because of the interest rates that are now going to be charged against a deferment. So their estate will benefit, and maybe they have certain commitments to their estate to provide for their family or whatever maybe they want to donate to. So it will considerably impact that amount. So
They may well, but it won't force them out of their home. It just affects
yeah,
their
that's right.
estate.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe if we remove the statement about forcing you out of the home, would that be more amicable for you?
So I would definitely remove that, but then it does get pretty complicated and dicey after even that. So how do we test whether they own a bunch of stocks? And they should just liquidate their stocks to pay their property taxes. It just gets really complicated. But at end of the day, if I'm thinking from the perspective of, there are different perspectives. There's the senior on a fixed income. There's the family that has children that could defer their property taxes. The high property taxes is a real issue on this one. Actually, it's not do we really want the provincial government subsidizing people borrowing money to pay tax? Like, I don't think so. Like, imagine the federal government said, we'll lend you the money to pay your income taxes. And before we'll subsidize you to borrow the money to pay your income tax. And now we're actually going to charge you a bit more for you to borrow money to pay your income tax. Like, I think this whole thing, it gets so complicated and concerning that that's why I don't really want to weigh on it into the provincial government's like, this is your guys' department. You broke it or whatever, maybe, but you take care of it. We're dealing with our property taxes here.
But the provincial government itself are the ones that have downloaded many of the programs and services that we've had to provide at the local government level.
I'll support that motion any day of the week.
And that's exactly it. And so we're talking about tear down the system and start again. Really, property taxes, like taxing people out of their homes. Without a deferment program, it would literally do that without a deferment program. So it's not perfect, the deferment program, but at least it alleviates a lot of the hardship that many people will be felt. So
can I propose an amendment then, maybe?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Unless there's other comments, but I would love to split these off. I very much would appreciate sending a letter to the province about the cancellation of not just the Lions housing project, but also serious risk on the Bolinas housing project, phase 2 that they're planning. There's huge costs that have been borne by our community, by volunteers, by architects to make these projects happen in good faith. And then the provincial government just pulls the rug out from them. And so I think we really need to look at that one.
Right. And as to your comment, Councillor Granzis, I was going to do exactly that to specifically how it affects the city of Parksville and our affordable housing projects. And I would do that. It's just, I didn't think that there was any harm in another letter contesting these things as Councillor Gore has introduced. And so that's why I was supporting it. But if we could change the wording of this, then if you'd be okay with that, would you like? Okay, Councillor Beale, maybe you can help.
Yeah, I would just really like to see these split apart because I have a lot of problem with the deferment request,
okay.
I really do.
Okay.
There are so many different ways that one could look at this and pros and cons, and it's a bit of a mess. Complex is maybe a nicer word, but to look at the affordable housing, hitting the pause button on that, the ramifications are huge for not only those who have put all that work into getting to this particular point, but the people, others. So
let's talk about that. So let's talk about splitting it first. Okay, so are you okay with splitting it and to the first section to just the deferment? Yes, and I seconded, I'm okay to splitting it. So we have that. And also, are you okay to amending that to instead of being forced out of their homes type of thing, we just leave it? Would you like to?
Yes, thank you. I don't know what the amendment is being proposed. I haven't heard. I know the councillor doesn't like the wording that somebody is being forced out of their homes, but I don't know what the alternative wording that's being suggested. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll split it first, and so we're now splitting it first, the very first one, and now we're looking for an amendment motion to the first motion to defer. Councillor Grenz, if you have something that would make it more palatable, or is it just removing the statement regarding losing your homes?
Thank you for that. I honestly, I just think it's such a complex issue. I have a hard time even speaking to it. I fully recognize that for many seniors who have relied on this program for deferring their property taxes, that this has been this will be a significant hardship. But I don't have the legions of policy staff behind me like the provincial government does to make decisions around this. If I had choices around the budget, I would have made some very different choices based on what I know, but I am not in that department. So I'm kind of reluctant to even touch this one. I am very happy to touch the other one because it is the exact intersection of Parksville's priorities and the provincial government's priorities.
Do you want to pursue it?
Yeah, there should be rules.
Hey, you okay? So let's amend the motion to remove the statement that where it says increase the risk that long-term residents will be forced out of their homes. Remove that from your, are you okay with that? Okay, so let's just amend it. You approve that, I approve that. On the amended motion, all those in favor of sending the letter to the prophet? Sorry, CEO Kaler. Time, are you? Yes.
Sorry, through the mayor, if I can maybe make a suggestion, we're just trying to follow the bouncing ball here, and I'm wondering if we might want to withdraw. So right now we have a mover and seconder for 1, 2, and 3. But what I'm hearing is we might want to split number 1 into 2 other things. But we've currently got them all reading together. And so I wonder if we might want to withdraw the motion and just use the wording here to create a new motion. Because then you can have 2 new motions, one on the housing thing and one on the deferment.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
number 1 is very integrated into the losing the homes thing. So if we can get, if everybody agrees to withdraw the motion that's on the agenda and kind of use it to start a new motion.
Do you agree to withdraw?
Okay,
And
that's
seconder, so do I.
perfect. That's cleaner.
Then let's craft a new amendment regarding the deferred. So go ahead, read out. I mean.
Oof, thank. Yeah, I think I've thought about it. Sorry, the council formally expressed its concern to the province of BC regarding budget 2026 measure, including changes, including proposed changes to the BC property tax deferment program that will raise the cost of deferring property taxes for people who rely on it to remain housed, particularly seniors, surviving spouses, persons with disability, and families financially supporting dependent children.
Stop.
Period. Yes.
Yes.
So if I just might clarify, that still has the remaining housed thing that I thought was of a concern.
Oh,
What, the housing fund?
for deferring. Okay, I guess, yes.
Might I suggest that we do the easier motion first, which is that we ask the mayor to write a letter to clause 3, expressing concern around the indefinite closure of the community housing fund that local governments and nonprofit partners rely on to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can do that, I don't know who wants to
And
move that.
Yeah, just
Okay.
number 3. Yeah, just leave the community housing fund out of the first one that Amit's suggesting, and then do number 3 separately. Right.
So yeah, so if Councillor Gore would want to move that one, maybe.
Well, yeah, we need a mover and a seconder for that, and it would basically, we'll craft a proper wording, but that the mayor write the letter expressing concern about that and include all of the things the mayor mentioned he's already going to include. And so if we get a mover and seconder, that can be the motion.
Okay, I'll move. You second.
Councillor Gore
You okay
and
with
Mayor Brian.
Okay. So we're on the housing one now. Yeah, okay. Well, let's put that on the floor right now. It's on the floor. Okay. Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the intent of expressing are concerned from the city of Parksville. You know, I try to pay quite a bit of attention to provincial matters, and there is concern from the entire province on this budget. Aside from people possibly be pushed out of their homes, we don't have any facts for that. So I think that weakens this argument. I think we do have facts that the Lions Housing had its funding pulled. I think that strengthens that argument from our community's standpoint, from our council standpoint, from our jurisdiction, from our responsibility. If we're concerned about, you know, the inheritance for you know, people who own properties, that they're going to be handing down a little bit less. The fourth largest ministry of this provincial government right now is debt servicing. It goes the Ministry of Health, and then there's two more ministries, and then the fourth largest budget item is debt servicing. That's what we're handing down to our children. So I understand where this is coming from, but it's a whole lot bigger than just property tax deferrals. Subsidized loans from other property taxes and provincial income taxes is what the plan was. And now the province is going to try to make 2% on prime because they can't figure out how else to pay their bills. That's what they're doing. When the credit rating drops in a month, that means that fourth largest ministry is going to be even bigger line item because they're going to owe even more money for our kids. That's what this budget is. So I appreciate the spirit of this, but I would recommend that council stay in our lane, in our specific responsibility, in the specific items that we can point to, such as Alliance Housing and Bolinas Housing, and send that letter. The rest is trying to tell them to rejig their budget, and I would rather see Jeddah do it than Victoria, but I can't make that happen. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councilor Gordon.
Yes, thank you. I think the motion right now is about the community housing fund is what we're discussing, right? Not the deferment program. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for your input. I did not know that ministry existed, but thank you. But this is specifically speaking to the Alliance Housing project, how it was affected by the indefinite closure of the CHF. We all received a letter from the Alliance Housing. We all hear in the community from our constituents that we are building all this housing, but none of this is affordable. And these were the affordable housing projects that have now suffered because of the closure of this CHF. We all know we went on a limb to support this despite some opposition from the community on the Alliance Housing project specifically. So that's what this motion is about first. I would love to get council support on this. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
If I can add, not just Alliance Housing, but also Bolinas Housing as well, because those are the two projects that affected City of Parksville. Yes. So I agree. Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. Back to your deferred.
Thank you, council. Looks like I have two motions now. So yeah, this one is, again, asking the mayor to write a letter to all the premier, the minister, the MLA, with copies to the Minister of Housing and UBCM regarding the proposed changes to the BC property tax deferment program that will raise the cost of deferring property taxes for seniors, surviving spouses, people with disability, and families financially supporting dependent children. Seconded by Mayor Brian.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was it mentioned that there's 670 families in Parksville that use this?
Deferred taxes.
Deferred taxes? That's quite a lot. So when they have such a terrific program and then they change it, I don't get it. No, they're making it not as attractive.
Well, Councilor Wood, I think, described pretty well that they're absolutely desperate at this point to service.
And they're going to take it in a the seniors to be affected by this.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think a letter should go on that. I would rather not see it changed. If they have a good program and we have that many citizens that are taking advantage of it, we should stick up for them.
Thank you for the comments. Councillor Beal, go ahead. And then Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and perhaps a question through to staff to clarify that when people have their property taxes deferred, it doesn't mean that, just if you can clarify, it doesn't mean that the city does not receive those taxes, correct? So the BC province, the government, is in fact then sending that money to our community and to every other community that has those taxes deferred. Is that correct? Yes. And I do appreciate that, you know, that there may be people who really need this, but I also know, now I'm not someone who defers my property taxes, as it turns out, but my financial advisor has always said, do it, do it, do it. You can put that money aside. And I imagine that many people have listened to their financial advisor over the year. And I know that this question is on the minds of many citizens. I've had people talk to me about it. In that case, they just said, well, if it's going to be, how is the interest, you know, and so they're just thinking, well, better redo this and go with that. I'm sorry, I can't support this. I just think that the province is in a really tough spot here, and I don't think it's up to us to make that decision.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just to comment to that is, I guess, have the benefit of being on the RDN as a director anyways. I also receive all of the taxpayer alliances that have now created in the last year, so to speak. And I have read all of the letters personally about the increased taxes cannot be occurring at such a rate anyways that makes it unbearable and therefore unsustainable for not just seniors, for those individuals living in our area. So I've heard that loud and clear. And if it's the deferment taxes that gets them more into a comfort spot, I'm good with. So I will be supporting this on the basis I've read every one of them in there. These are not wealthy millionaire people, I can tell you. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some people that abuse the system, just like those people that cut in line. Those people are out there, and you know that's not going to change. But there we go. Yeah. Anyways, Councillor Grants, go ahead.
Thank you. So I won't support this one, mainly because it's get into way more complex territory than I think I should be advising the provincial government on, and also taking into consideration what Councillor Wood has said. Rent, yeah. So one of the factors that makes it possible, just to touch on some of the complexity here, is one of the factors that makes it possible for the provincial government to lend out money for less than it costs to borrow that money is that the province would have a very good credit rating. And if the province has a very good credit rating, then they can borrow money at a good rate. And then they can pass that rate down to the people borrowing money to defer their property taxes. We are not in that era anymore. The province does not have a very good rate. It's actually, as Councillor Wood has mentioned, it's still pretty good, but it's getting worse. And the more the province gets into debt, the more that and fails to bring in revenues, the more that credit rating is going to get downgraded, the more it will cost to borrow money, the more it will be then subsidizing people to also borrow money. It just seems like the net borrowing across the province between the public sector and then the private sector of individual homeowners is getting a little ridiculous and a little bit scary as far as our entire province's debt rating. So that's where I'm concerned about. If we can't pay as you go on this stuff, why are we borrowing all this? So to Councillor Beal's point, it is a complete no-brainer if someone is going to give you free money for you to not take that free money. That's what the province has been doing up until now, is saying, hey, you can defer your property taxes and you can just put that into the safest possible, like GIC or something, and you're still going to make money on that. So it'd be pretty foolish not to take the advantage of that unless you just want to avoid the doing that complicated thing. So anyway, it's a very complex thing. So I am also recognizing that deferring your property taxes is something that people have valid reasons for. But I just wanted to touch on some of the complexities of this that I just really don't think that it's something that I want to weigh in on as a council.
Yeah, I got to call the vote.
Can I make a comment, please?
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
just a quick comment. Yeah, thank you. No, I heard a couple of comments about staying in the lane, getting into the provincial budget. I'm not getting into the provincial budget. I'm not telling them what to do, how to manage their budget better. What I'm advocating is for our seniors, for our community members who are impacted by this. That's the only thing I'm telling them. And that's my job, advocacy. I'm advocating for them. I'm not telling them to raise their prime by another 2% or not have compounded. I'm telling them this is how it's affecting our seniors. What program, how they change it, it's up to them. I'm not even giving them any suggestions how to do it better. I know the way it's presented now is not going to work for a lot of people. Thank you.
Good point.
Could I propose an amendment then? Is that maybe we just soften the language a little bit and just the letter is speaking to the impact in our community for seniors to have a rapid switch from one mode to the other. And that is really where the hardship is. And actually that's a common complaint about the province's approach to handling their policy. We've seen that with the short-term rentals. We've seen that any number of things where the province turns on a dime after decades of doing it a certain way. And then tomorrow, boom, Bill 44, boom, Bill 35, boom. Now it goes from 2% to 4%, or like a 4% swing in interest rate. And that the transition that people can't plan for, I would 100% support that motion if we speak to that.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So maybe if
Okay. So
if that's something that the staff can turn into something, then I'll support that motion.
That's
you
an
amending it?
amendment. If you tell us to do it.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, so staff can include that in the letter? Did you get what it was, staff, that Councillor Grens, yeah,
We did, but I think that we would just need to vote on that as included, so it
Okay.
would need to be an amendment.
right.
Okay, I'll make the amendment. So I'll amend the motion to say that the letter speaks to the rapid and abrupt change in policy that is going to have a sudden impact on seniors and families in our community.
Yep, okay. Right, yeah.
Okay, so we need to vote on the amendment, and then if it passes, we'll vote on the main motion as amended.
Thank you. We'll vote on all those in favor of the amendment. Okay. That is unanimous. Now back to the original amended motion. Would all those in favor? That's unanimous. There we go. That was easy. Is there any notices of motion that you would like to present now for next meeting? Yeah. Councillor Wood was first, and he can put this in as long as he doesn't read it.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to read it.
7 pages, and it's co-authored by an AI, I would suspect.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to read it, but it has been already sent electronically to staff, so it'll be included on the next agenda. I appreciate council taking a look at it. Really, the idea here is that I think as a council, we're receiving new information. I'm not a hydrologist or a hydrogeologist.
You don't care. You don't care. No, I'm just telling you that that's the motion. It's going to be on the next one.
Thank you.
Yes, and you can, yeah, okay, we got a notice of motion that will appear on the next agenda. And then, no, I don't want to hear the whole thing. And Councillor Beal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I too have a notice of motion to come to the next meeting. And this is related to the $10 a day program. So it's a common theme that's going on here. And you may recall that we received a letter from the Early Learning Childcare Council for Oceanside requesting local governments share a message of support with Premier Eby and Finance Minister Bailey for the continuation and expansion of $10 a day program for affordable childcare. So I won't go into further more details at that point, but I would like to make a motion that we send a letter, that council or the mayor send a letter to Premier Eby and Minister of Finance Brenda Bailey requesting continued and expanded support for the $10 a day early learning childcare program, highlighting the need for affordable childcare.
Right. And Councillor Beal, can I ask that you actually include that wording to the staff and maybe work with the staff? Yeah, just to get it exactly so they capture exactly what you're talking. Absolutely. That's right. That's perfect. I love it. Any other notices of motion? Okay, we got to rock on here because we're going to go into overtime. Liaison reports. We're going to start with Councillor Beal. And then Councillor Martin has indicated that she has a quick one as well. Go ahead,
Okay.
Councillor Beal.
Thank you. And I actually do have a third one, and that's the Chamber of Commerce. But first of all, the Vancouver Island Regional Library, I'd just like to mention that the library board recently held an orientation session, as there are some new members appointed to the board, mostly repeats. And this was immediately followed by the AGM and the full board meeting. The executive committee has been formed, and Jonathan Lerner is the new chair of the library board. Some of you may know Jonathan. He's with the District of Lansville. Libraries Light the Way. I put this handout out. This handout includes the vision, mission, and value statements of our regional library. And I just want to add that over time, there will be follow-up informational pieces outlining deliverables. Okay. You should have gotten one
No, I got
somewhere
one.
under
No,
there.
I
Oh,
got-
good.
No,
Okay.
I do have one here.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because, a quiz next time. Have you read it? No, I'm just kidding. May I move on to the Oceanside Community Arts Council? Yes, and notice two-sided, Councillor Wood. Okay.
Sure.
So
Okay,
with the Arts Council, again, we all received a letter of thanks for the increase to their annual grant, as well as an additional grant to assist with the cost of painting the exterior of the Arts Center. And I'd like to mention that in addition to the many exhibits, performances, and classes that are on site, the MAC box office is the spot to go. It's probably not the only one in town, but nonetheless, the spot to go to get tickets for many upcoming events. And if you aren't aware, these include Rock Around the MAC, June 20th, which is a fundraiser for the building. There will be live music, tapas, etc. Tickets are $100, and there are some great auction items, including works by Robert Held and Cirque du Soleil tickets, among others. There's the Parksville Beer Festival coming up July 4th. There's a car and bike show registration, the registration for that, and shirt sales for the July 5th event. There are apparently 300 hot rods and bikes expected for that event. And April Wine is the group that's the Beach Fest opening concert this year, July 11th, and tickets will go on sale April 1st. Beach Fest Rocks, August 8th to 10th. And all of these, the tickets for any and all of these events can be done at the MAC over on McMillan Art Center. Also, they are applying for a community safety grant to purchase and install an AED on site, especially given the demographics of the many participants in courses and those attending evening performances when other nearby establishments are closed. Okay. The Parksville and District Chamber of Commerce, I conveyed the good news that the city will be the sponsor presenter for the Citizen of the Year Award. And this award and many others will be presented at the Chamber's Business Gala, which will be held April 9th. So that's a change of date. Previously, it was meant to be in March. April 9th at Tinamara, and it's a change of date. I think further details will be coming out. Also, good news, the Chamber has successfully added interns and gained more volunteers. And this means that the Visitor Center is now open 5 days a week, Monday to Friday from 9:30 to 5 o'clock. And finally, they've been working on a number of projects. I won't spill the beans on some of them that they're working on. But one of them is the updating of their website, and it really is worth checking out. You can find your way around that. If there's any questions, I'm right here.
Thank you, Councillor Beal. Councillor Martin, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The museum has got, the church is doing their whole renovating it. If you go by there, you'll see and it's being come back to, how can I say? So that it works, you know, the sideboards and everything, it's all being covered up right now. But I guess by the 4th of April, they'll be finished because there's a first event there. There's a musical event that master flamenco guitarist, and he's a very famous one that happens to have a free moment to come into Parksville while he's going through. So the tickets are available through the website, $40. And it's limited, of course, because it's in the church, but the church will be finished up by then, I would think. It's quite remarkable. I don't know if I mentioned it last time that there's a new fence there. Did I mention it? A new, as you go in off, there's a black metal fence there. And that was donated. The effort was donated, and just the cost of materials of about $800 for that, which is really, you know, fixes it up and everything. So the other thing I was going to mention just about the Wounded Warriors, it was an amazing event on Friday, and they gave me this actually for Parksville for, you know, saying a few words, but they have, I think, got their goal because they had 231,000 just the other day. So they'll have 250 by the time they get down there. But there was so much enthusiasm about it. I was very thrilled to be a part of that. And you know, it's excellent. It's getting bigger and bigger, I think, from what they're saying. They feel very strongly about it. So that's all for now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good.
Councilor Martin. And something that just came on, Councilor Grants, of late, we've had you appointed as a liaison for the Parksville community. Have you participated in any meetings with them, or is there anything you can report out on, or even tourism too, or? We just love to hear your voice.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. So yeah, I've been able to participate in one meeting so far with the PCCS, and they did recently hold their AGM, but it was during our council meeting, so I wasn't able to participate in that, unfortunately. But they're moving along quite nicely with the unfortunate and sudden passing of their fearless leader there, and they've got a number of great initiatives going on that I'm getting familiar with. Some of them which I knew already, and others I'm learning about. And I'm looking forward to a good relationship with them moving forward, and opportunities to collaborate with the society there. It's been very good so far because they've appreciated the opportunity to have the interface with the city, because they don't necessarily understand some of the things that go on in the city relative to what they're doing. So it's been good for me to kind of educate them a little bit about what's going on this side. So that's been great. In terms of the Tourism Association, I think the biggest maybe update that I could bring on that front is that they do have a fund that they've been setting aside money through the OAP, which is the short-term rental revenue that comes in from short-term rentals. Part of that is set aside for to do different affordable housing initiatives. And there's no concrete plan or anything around this now, but there is an opportunity to maybe work with that fund to support some of the non-market housing initiatives that have now been sidelined. And so that's just a thought that had come up at the last meeting so far, with no concrete plan on that, but it's some a little thread to pull on there as we see how things fall out here with the change in the provincial policies or funding. That's the PDBA. The PDBA AGM is coming up this week. Yeah.
Tuesday.
That's in April. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that one's coming in April, I believe. And then but the most upcoming one is PDBA.
The PDBA is on tomorrow night at 5:30. Yeah.
And just further to what Councillor Grants had said, recognize too that the speculation tax has created a pool as well. A pool of money that they've collected on our behalf. And so I've had conversations, initial conversation with Brenda Bailey, Minister Bailey, Minister of Finance anyways, and we're going back and forth, and there's for every municipality that has the spec tax applied to it, which Parksville is one of now, only for the last 2 years, And so there's actually a pool of money and it's supposed to be designated to, get this, affordable housing. Yeah, and so we have that, and I can tell you, it's public knowledge, is that in Parksville, we have approximately 700 grand in that. I mean, it doesn't go far yet, but you accumulate that in a couple of years, that's going to be applicable. Getting our hands on that money may be interesting, but it is being applied to and is being paid by those people that are paying the speculation tax within the city of Parksville boundaries. So that is good news. So money in the bank, folks. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Fraz, second by Councilor Garn. All those in favor? Thank you.
I was going to
can't
move an
leave that.
amendment. No.
You have to stay.